Wait.
Biden actually did something that was impossible.
Oh my God, he is slurring.
Both sides hate him. Both sides.
Yeah.
That was a hard thing to do. Unification.
Yeah, no.
Biden actually did something that was.
Oh my God. Big Dog actually hit the suffering succotash.
All right, hello everyone. My apologies for the late start. We unfortunately had a massive distributed denial of service attack against our servers, and saturated all of our data lines. Like basically hundreds of gigabits of data were saturated. We think we've overcome most of that, and so it's now time to proceed.
You're such a bitch.
As this massive attack illustrates, there's a lot of opposition to people just hearing what President Trump has to say, and but I'm honored to have this conversation. I want to emphasize it's a conversation, and it's really intended to just get a feel for what Donald Trump is just like in a conversation. It's hard to catch a vibe about someone if you just don't hear them talk in a normal way. And when there's an adversarial interview, like no one's themselves in an adversarial interview. And this is really aimed at kind of open-minded, independent voters who
Yeah, they're all
their mind.
yeah, open-minded independent voters like Hitler Groiper 48.
So you can understand like what
and
is,
every blue check mark
what is
crypto
it just
guy.
like to have a conversation. So honored to Donald, great to speak. We had a great conversation yesterday. As you mentioned yesterday, if we could just record that conversation and post it, it would have been excellent. And I hope we can have something like that today.
Well, I think we will. I'm pretty sure we will. And congratulations, because I see you broke every record in the book with so many millions of people. And it's an honor. We view that as an honor. And then you do want silencing of certain voices. Usually those are voices that have something to say that are constructive, oftentimes constructive. And
Yeah.
so we have to consider it an honor. But congratulations on breaking
Why does he
every
sound
record
like
in the
he's
book
eating?
tonight. That's great.
Well,
Is
thank
he
you.
eating?
Well, I mean, maybe we could start off with, the assassination attempt, which was an incredible thing. And I have to say that, your actions after that assassination attempt were inspiring. You, instead of shying away from things, instead of ducking down, you were pumping your fist in the air and saying, fight, fight, fight. And I think that's, I mean, the president of the United States represents America, and I think that is America. That is strength under fire, and so that's a big part of the reason why I was excited to endorse you as
It's such a dumb
the
idea not to
president
do
of
this
the
in
United
video
States
form.
for
I know.
having another term here. Is that was just incredibly inspiring. But I mean, what was it like for you?
Glazing.
Not pleasant. I have to be honest.
Glaze.
I said there was blood. I had
Being
more
shot is
blood.
not
I didn't
much
know I
fun.
had.
He's doing tricks on it.
Blood. The doctors later told me that the ear is a place that is a very bloody place if you're going to get
A
hit.
very bloody
But
place.
in this case, it was probably the best alternative you could even think about, because it went at the right angle, and it was a hard hit. It was very, I guess you would say surreal, but it wasn't surreal. I was telling somebody you have instances like this, or like a lot less than this, where you feel it's a surreal situation, and I never felt that way. I knew immediately that it was a bullet. I knew immediately that it was at the ear.
Yeah.
And because it hit very hard, but hit the ear. And I also heard people shout, bullets, bullets, get down, because I moved down pretty nicely, pretty quickly. And we had bullets flying right over my head after I went down. So I'm glad I went down. The bigger miracle was that I was looking in the exact direction of the shooter. And so it hit.
Boo, we don't
hit me at
care.
an
We
angle
forgot
that
about it,
was,
old man. Nobody cares.
far less destructive than any other angle. So that was the miracle. That was,
Yeah.
for those
Split
people that
second.
don't believe in God, I think we got to all start thinking about that. You have to you know, I'm a believer now. I'm more of a believer, I think, and a lot of people have said that to me. A lot of great people have said that to me, actually. But it was amazing that I happened to be turned just at that perfect
Yeah.
angle, and all because I put down a chart on immigration that showed that the numbers were so great. I love that chart
I
even
mean,
more
maybe it's
now
a
that I.
sign. Maybe
Yeah,
that's a sign, you know.
it's an immigration sign.
Yeah, we
You
should get the
highlighted a
South
serious
African
issue,
immigrant out.
and
Yeah,
at that moment,
that's right.
the bullet missed your, you know, hit your ear, but you know, missed your head. I mean,
Well,
you know,
the
yeah,
amazing thing is that the sign. I said, bring down that sign on immigration, and it was literally about an eighth of a second where it would be good, and after that it was going to
yeah,
be a disaster, no matter which way you were facing. But it just had that perfect angle, which was
yeah,
exactly at this shooter. Very sad situation, such a sad situation. As you know, we lost somebody that was great, Corey,
yeah,
who, a firefighter, a great gentleman, a great Trumper. He was just a fantastic family and a fantastic
I
man. And
think
a
I
friend
think
of
he
mine came
sounds
up,
like he has a lisp
Elon,
right
and
now
said, "I'd
because
like to
of
give
the audio
the family
compression
some kind
issues,
of
probably.
help." And I
Which
said,
I mean,
"That's
it
great."
doesn't
He
play
said, "Do you
well
mind?" I said, "I
to
don't
a guy
mind at
like
all."
Trump
And
who
he wrote
cares
out a
about the
check for $1 billion,
optics.
gave it to the wife, and you know,
Yeah, see,
she said, "This is really nice,
top end
but
is
I'd rather
fucked up
have my
because the audio
husband back,"
compression it
which
does that
is
to
a
sibilants.
nice thing for
sure,
somebody to say, to be honest. She's great. The family is great, and we raised a lot of
yeah,
money for them and for two other gentlemen are unbelievable people. Also, they were hit really badly. They thought they were not going to make it, and they did. The doctors in the Butler area, I tell you, they were incredible. They saved the two, and they were really hit tough, both of them
yeah,
equally. And we thought
yeah,
my first question was because I heard bullets flying over me. I said, "How
Ask his
many
name,
people were killed?" Because we had a
Elon. Ask his
massive
name right
crowd,
now.
a
Ask
tremendous
what the
yeah,
firefighter's name is right
thousands and
now.
thousands of people, and there was no land. I mean, there was
You will
just
be a
little boat
legend.
people. So
If
I said,
he asked,
"How many people
he
have
would
been
never
killed?"
do it.
Because I
But
knew there were other shots being fired,
sure,
and they said, "We
no,
don't know
not just his
yet,
first
but some
name.
people have been badly hurt."
Full
And
name.
I
Full
have to
name.
give the Secret Service sniper, they call him, or sharpshooter, but sniper,
yeah,
because he didn't know there was a problem. He's an extraordinary shot, obviously, and he didn't know there was a problem. And he was
yeah,
able to pick it all out within 5 seconds. And he used one bullet from very far away, I guess probably about 400 yards. The shooter was
Also,
130, but he was on the
yeah,
it
he
was
was on
pretty
the
funny when he was
opposite
like,
side
"I'll
of
never
the
tell
field
this
and the
story
bullet,
again. It's too
and he saw
emotional."
the smoke and the flame from the gun.
That was one of my
Immediately
favorite gay Trump
recognized it,
moments
and
when he
immediately
gets
took
like
the
all
shot.
like, "I will
And
never
it was
tell
one
this story again."
perfect shot from very far away. And if he didn't do
yeah,
that, Elon, he would have. I mean, if he would have, a lot of people, a lot more people could have been
sure,
badly hurt and killed. So
yeah,
I have to
absolutely,
take my hat off to him because that's also a surreal. You know, he's been with them for 23 years, and
yeah,
he's never had
I
anything
mean,
like
dude,
this.
this is
And all of a sudden, he has to act, and it's a very tough thing to
sure,
act and to be shooting somebody. But he saw the gun, saw the smoke, saw the flame from the gun, very far away. I obviously has very good eyes. He's got very good vision, which I assume you have
yeah,
to have in that
bro.
particular
He sounds
work. But he took
absolutely,
aim very quickly, and it was, they say it was approximately 5 seconds from long range,
yeah,
one bullet. If that didn't happen,
yeah,
because the shooter had a lot of bullets, he had a lot of cartridges up
sure.
there with him, so could have
Well,
been very.
I mean that's clearly you know, he was very confident in taking that shot to stop the attempted assassination. But I mean, there does seem to be, I mean, some pretty significant failings elsewhere in the system. Like, there's just no way that, like, how on earth does a shooter get on a roof 130 yards away? That seems crazy. I think most people people are wondering how on earth could such a thing happen?
Well, you know, I view it as two ways. There should have been nobody on the roof. There were people,
Yeah,
because there were so many tens of thousands of people there. There were people that were seeing him, and there was one woman with a red shirt and
right.
Trump all over
I
it,
saw the video.
and she's screaming, "That guy's got a gun!" You know, you saw it probably.
Yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah.
a
No, I
guy
saw the
up there
video.
with a
So I
gun.
mean, it's like, I guess. I mean, for my part, and I think probably many members of the public are wondering how the heck are, basically people wandering by pointing out there's a guy on the roof with a gun.
Yeah.
And they're seeing it, but somehow it's not being addressed. That does seem
Yeah,
crazy.
well, they're going to learn from this. The communication between the local police, who sort of had an idea, and then ultimately a man lifted himself up to the roof, could barely do it because he was pulling himself up, and
Yeah.
he saw the man with the gun. The man with the gun pointed the gun at him. He thought he was probably going to get shot, but he was like pulling himself up, and because of that, he couldn't get to his gun. And he fell down, actually very badly hurt his leg, his ankle. I hear very badly,
Okay.
but he fell down. And he did, from what I understand, he did say there's a
Bro,
guy
still
up there
talking
with
about
a
this.
gun.
Move on, bro. Move
And
on.
the shooting started very quickly after that. I think it forced the shooter to go maybe quicker. He was supposed to be a very good shot.
Yeah.
My sons, Don and Eric, they can't believe what happened, but they said from 130 yards, a bad shot would hit that target almost every time. They said it's like in golf,
Yeah.
sinking a 2-foot putt.
Yeah. It's not a
No,
tough shot.
it's not a long shot. The Secret Service person had the long shot. He had.
I think one thing that people fail to consider is that Trump actually performs really well in adversarial interviews because he gets like bitchy. And when it's a glaze sesh, and I've listened to so many Trump glaze sessions with Sean Hannity where he sucks him, like he gives him that good suck. It's very boring.
You had so many people. One of the miracles.
It comes across as like a very boring, low energy back and forth.
Crowd control people showed us this. When guns go off, and it does happen in stadiums at a soccer match or some kind of a match, everybody flees. They call it a stampede, like cattle. But everybody, and a lot of
Yeah.
people get killed with those stampedes. We had
Sure.
more people than you'd have at, some of these matches or these games, and nobody left. You had a small group behind us in the grandstand, and that was full. And you look at it as it was taking place, and normally they'd be running. They didn't leave. They saw that I was hurt. They saw a lot of blood, and they saw that I went down. And it's almost like they wanted to be with me. Well, out front, you had thousands, tens of thousands of people. As far as the eye could see, you had people in Butler, as far as the eye could see, and
Yeah.
and a lot of press too. There were many cameras on watching this. It's what makes it so different, because normally things happen that aren't good, but you never have a picture of it. Here we have all these cameras shooting it, so sort of amazing. But one of the interesting things was that you didn't have anybody flee. You didn't have anybody stampede.
Sure.
Nobody. And there were some people behind me. They stood up and they're looking like, I mean, I'll tell you, you want to have them in a foxhole with you. I want to meet some of those people, because
Sure.
it's so different from what you heard. But so I was down, but the Secret Service
Yeah.
guys, there were bullets flying right over my head. You could hear them go whizzing. And these guys came jumping on top of me, and a young lady, Kate, would jump. They moved so fast,
You
and
won bingo.
let me tell you, that took
Congratulations.
tremendous courage. Now there was a lack of coordination. There was, obviously everybody understands that somebody that building should have been covered, and
Yeah. I mean,
that was
I
the
think
big
that,
thing.
looking at the aerial views, that building would be like the number one spot for a sniper. I mean, it's like if you were to pick, like, what is the favorite place? So if the goal is to assassinate, what's your favorite spot? That building. The
You're
roof of
right.
that building would be number one.
That would have been the spot.
It's like you can ask for a better location. It's like number
No,
one.
that would have been the spot.
Um,
What people think
yeah.
is when the local policeman, who, by the way, he really he did what he was supposed to do. He couldn't hold on any longer. And then when he got
Yeah.
his head just peeking above, this guy standing there with a gun at his head. And when he fell down, again,
This is a
hurt his
good
ankle
take.
very badly, but he was making the calls. But what happened is the firing took place very soon. So
This is a good take on the
what they
dynamic.
think
Elon
is
wants
that
Trump to
this
say
guy
this was a
ran to
conspiracy
his
by
side,
the deep state or
which we had
potentially
all
like
planned out
DEI
with the gun.
and was allowed to happen, but that's
He
not
ran
actually
to the
convenient for
side
Trump. He
and
wants people to
started
think the killer was
shooting
super
fast,
skilled and
maybe
survived
that's
nonetheless.
why
He's defending the cop who got scared by the kid on the roof.
missed. I mean, he
Yeah. But
he
as you
got
say,
me, but
he
it
would have
could have
hit.
been
I mean,
could have been a much
Yeah.
bigger problem.
But he totally would have hit if you hadn't turned your head. So, like, there was it was a very near thing.
It was a
So,
miracle. If I hadn't
um,
turned my head,
yeah,
I would not be talking to you right now. As much as I like you,
exactly.
I would not.
Yeah,
I would
well,
not be talking to you.
I mean, be talking to me from another realm, perhaps.
Yeah, that's right. We'd be talking from a
So,
different place. But it was a, it was a, it was a very terrible experience. The Butler Hospital, they did such a great job. The doctors were so good. Everybody was so good. There was a mistake. If somebody knew, because people were hearing that, there was just a bad feeling that there was somebody was around. You know that story now. It's been pretty
yeah,
well.
yeah,
And
yeah,
if somebody could have said, because they've oftentimes said, like there'd be a lightning storm or something. Because I've done, I think over 300. I think I did a lot more than that, but we did a lot. And oftentimes they'll say, "Sir, could you wait 10 minutes, please? Sir, could you wait 20 minutes? There's a storm overhead or lightning or something," right? And
yeah,
that happens
yeah,
often. And this
What?
would have been a perfect time for that to have happened, but it
yeah.
didn't get coordinated. That was the problem.
Well, it was your. I think your actions in the heat of fire, and like what I find admirable there was that you can't fake bravery under such circumstances. The courage is instinctual, or it is not. It's not a rehearsed action. And so I just want to
Glaze!
say that I think a lot of people admire your courage under fire.
Glaze!
And yeah, so
Thank you very
yeah,
much. I appreciate it. I didn't think of it. I just wanted to get up and I wanted to stand up. I wanted to let people know, I felt I was good when they were on top of me, covering me, actually, very much covering me and very bravely. But I wanted to get up. I said, I want to get up. And they wanted, they have everything there. They wanted stretcher. I didn't like the stretcher. And I knew I was hit in the ear, but I knew I wasn't hit anywhere else. They felt I was hit someplace else
yeah,
because it was such a lot of blood, and they were sure that I was hit someplace else. And they were saying, "Sir, you were hit in more than the ear." I said, "Nope, I was hit in the ear. I want to get up. Let me get up." And so I got up, and the crowd didn't know what to think. I mean, this was so many people, and you could see they were confused. They didn't know what to think, and I wanted to let them know I was okay. It was very important for me to let them
yeah,
know that, and they went wild. You've seen the after. They didn't go wild when I
yeah,
got up because they didn't know, was I alive. You really couldn't tell when I stood up before the hand, before the fist in the air. Uh, they didn't know if I was alive. Nobody did, and when I put the fist up, they were just relieved and happy and
Let me get
thrilled,
my
and the
shoes.
place went crazy.
Oh my
It was
God, this
pretty
is what he
amazing.
looks
It
yeah.
was
like
a
right
it
now.
was a
Well,
terrible thing, but it
it
was
was
really nice.
incredibly moving. Yeah. Um, well, and I mean, speaking of the sort of slide that got you to turn
He's
that
so fucking cute.
saved your life, really, was the illegal immigration
Right,
slide. Maybe this,
that's right.
maybe this is worth talking about that,
It
since
was it was.
that slide
You're
saved your
right.
life,
No, the
basically.
illegal immigration saved my life. You're right, but it was, and I
I
had to
know
be at
that's
that
the.
exact angle.
I mean, that's
Is
a
my
great one.
PFP on a screen?
Saved by illegal
You know,
immigration.
the
Wait,
incredible
100%.
thing though, when you talk about the odds, you had to be exactly at that angle. But the
Yeah,
incredible thing is that
no,
the chart, I used it less than 20% of the time. It was just a moment.
yeah,
It's always on my left, never my right, and it's always at the end of the
I
speech.
don't think so.
So here
yeah,
we have it. It's on the right, not the left.
No,
It's
it's
at the
not.
beginning, not the end. And even the people that put it up, they were unprepared, and they did a great job. They got it up immediately,
It's not.
fortunately. But I looked to the right, and the bullet came whizzing by, hitting my ear. So it was amazing. But when you think of the odds of that, and
yeah, yeah,
normally you wouldn't use it. Normally I wouldn't have the thing, and then it would
yeah.
have been a very different story. It's very much, I I say, an act of God. It's a miracle that it happened, and I'm
Sure.
He
honored by
does.
it.
Trump has a
I'm
lisp.
honored by it.
Well,
Let's just start that.
well,
Trump actually has a lisp. He always has a body double.
what were you about to say about illegal immigration before you were rudely interrupted with a
Well, I was
bullet?
going to say how good the numbers were. By the way, we're going back to Butler, and we're going to go
Great.
back in October. We're all set up, and
There
the
ain't no
people are
way he's going back to
fantastic in
Butler.
Butler.
That's crazy.
It's a great area. great. These are incredible people. Like the three that, in the case of Corey, killed, and the other two, the families are. I got to know them a little bit, and the families are great. But we're going back to Butler, and I think I'll probably start by saying, as I was saying,
As,
you
yeah,
know,
as you were
prior to
saying,
being
exactly.
so horribly
So,
interrupted.
yeah,
But
yeah. So rudely interrupted by an
yeah,
assassination
so I was,
attempt.
but no, but the chart,
Some people have no manners.
Elon, the chart was just a chart that in my last week we had the best illegal immigration numbers, meaning stopping. It was at the lowest. You've seen the chart. It's become quite a famous
Yeah,
chart,
yeah,
but that was the lowest
yeah.
point ever recorded. It was a really, I mean, I was very proud of those numbers. And then you see what happened with these people, Kamala and Joe. You see what happened. They just let it go. I had remain in Mexico policies. I had all these different policies that was so good. Uh, Guys like Tom Holman and Brandon Judd from Border Patrol. All these are all people that they've been on television. They says the best numbers we've ever had. We had so many different checks, catch and release in Mexico, not the United. We had catch and release in the United States. We had it in Mexico. We had so many things. We had things where if people, many people come in there, they have
Thanks,
contagious
man.
diseases. We had everything passed. If you have a contagious disease, I'm sorry, but we cannot allow you into the country. So we were setting
Yeah.
literally
Why is he
records, and
laughing?
I all I was doing is showing that, and I use it sometimes,
Sure.
and in this case, I'm glad I used it. I can tell you that, but they were fantastic numbers. But I'm going to sleep with that chart always. I'll be sleeping with that chart. That chart
You're
was
weird, bro. You're a fucking
very important.
weirdo. That's a
Very
weird
important for a
ass
lot
thing
of
to
reasons.
Well,
say.
I mean,
You're running for
would it be
president.
accurate
What
to
do you
would
mean?
it
You're
be
gonna
accurate to say
sleep with
that
a
you're
chart
in
of the
support
immigration
of
numbers?
legal immigration, but that but we also need to
Bro's weird
shut
as
down
hell,
illegal
dude.
immigration and especially unvetted
Yes.
illegal immigration because
Dog,
and that's not to
Elon
say
Musk was an illegal
that everyone
immigrant.
who's an illegal immigrant is bad. In fact, I think most people who are illegal immigrants are actually good, but you can't tell the difference unless there's a solid vetting of who comes across the border. Does that accurately
100%.
represent your position?
I say it
Okay.
very simply. They have to come in legally. They have to be checked.
Yeah.
Because look, Kamala was the border czar. Now she's denying it. Everything that I do, she's
Yeah.
saying she was strong on the border. We're going to be strong. Well, she doesn't have to say it. She could close it up right now. They could do things right now. It's horrible. Uh, no tax on tips, and all of a sudden she's making a speech and there will be no tax on tips.
Do
I
I
said
think this
that
will have any
months ago.
noticeable effect on
And
Trump's
by the way,
numbers,
they had
positive or
just the
negative?
opposite.
Negative.
You know, they had not only tax on
Negative is
tips,
negative.
but they
No
hired
positives.
88,000 IRS
Normal people are
agents,
not on Twitter,
and
chat.
many of them were assigned to go get
Most
wafers,
people are just going to talk about how
patties,
shitty the
all of
interview
this
was
on tips.
and how
They
it
have a
failed
policy. They had a
spectacularly.
policy. They were
Elon
really
Musk has
going to go
already
after
murdered
you.
2 campaigns. He's
We're
about to
really
murder his
harassing
third.
people horribly. And then all of a sudden, for politics, she says, she comes out with what I said, which I think is terrible. And I think it's also hitting them very hard. These people are fake. Now they're also saying they did a good job in the border. We had the worst numbers in the history of the world, not of our country. There's never been a
Ron
country
DeSantis,
in
Vivek
history
Ramaswamy, and
that
now
has had
Donald
a
Trump.
catastrophe like this. We've had, I believe, and I think you believe this too, you hear
CNN
12
Yeah.
headline.
million, 13. I believe it's over 20 million people came into our country,
Yeah.
many coming
Yeah,
from
see? Major
jails,
tech
from
problems.
prisons, from mental institutions, or a bigger version of that is
Yeah.
insane asylums, and many are terrorists. And I'll tell you what, they're coming not just from South America, they're coming from Africa, they're coming from all over the world. They're coming from Asia, they're
Yeah.
coming from the Middle East, they're coming from countries that are uh, stupidly and horribly bombing Israel October 7th. They're coming from all over the world. And you look at, it's so sad October 7th because it should have never happened.
Yeah.
It's so sad when
Sure.
you look at Ukraine. It should have never happened. We have a
Yeah.
defective government. These are defective people, and they're not people that should be running it. But where you see it the best is the
Endeavor Game,
border,
thank you for the 10 gift the
because
subs.
you have millions of people coming in a month, and then she gets up and she tries to pretend like she's going to do something. She had 3.5 years. And by the way, they have another 5 months that they can do something, but they
Yeah.
won't do anything. It's all talk. She's
No.
incompetent and he's incompetent. And frankly, I think that she's more incompetent than he is. And that's saying something because he's not too good.
Hassan is
Yeah.
a
No,
bitch.
I think it is essential to have a secure border. I mean, you're really not a country unless you have a
Correct.
secure border.
A lot of
And
people have talked
And
about
secure
how
elections.
Trump
you know,
doesn't know what an asylum seeker is
absolutely
and thinks
secure
it's an
elections,
insane
and
asylum.
so
And I'm
it is
beginning to feel
essential to
like
have a
that is
real
the
border,
case.
or we can't function as a country, and our service, our essential services are being overwhelmed in a lot of cities. Um, but as we were talking about earlier, I think having a legal immigration process that is smooth and efficient and done well, and speaking as someone who is a legal immigrant, and I think I mean, like one way to think of it is, who do you want on your team? Um, who do you want on Team America? And I think we want to just say, okay, we want to let in people who are gonna, be great contributors to our society and to our economy,
Right.
and who do you want on the team? And it's not to say that, like in my opinion, actually,
Elon
I'd
was
say
an
like
illegal
probably
immigrant.
most of the illegal
Elon
immigrants
was an
actually
undocumented
are
immigrant.
are are actually good, hardworking people. That's my opinion. But some are
Straight
not,
up.
and you just have this sort of adverse selection process where, if somebody's, if somebody's like you know, um, has a career in theft or robbery, I don't understand what's taken them so long to get here, because we're in such a target-rich environment. Um, I mean, why aren't more people who have a career in, bad things coming here sooner? Because I mean, it's a piece of cake to go rob, houses in LA or New York, compared to other parts of the world. And in a lot of places in America, if you try to stop the person who's robbing you, you'll be arrested.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's insane.
It's right. I mean, what's happening with crime, and our
What?
police are so good, but they're not allowed to do their job. But I have to tell you, Elon, I
They're
hate
not.
to say it because it's such a downer to say it. I hate to say it.
Oh my
I hate
God.
it, but uh, f- you have a lot of people that just shouldn't be. I think it's a much bigger number than you think. They're
I
allowing,
think you're
again,
right.
they're
Yeah.
allowing people from their jails. And if you were running one of these countries where they're coming from, you would have had
Ain't
all of
no
them.
way.
As an example, Venezuela, their crime is down 72%. They're taking their drug dealers. They're taking, frankly, their prisoners. They're emptying out their prisons. They're taking their criminals, their murderers, their rapists, and they're
Yeah.
delivering them into
But
the.
that's what Castro did
Yeah,
that.
well, he did on a
He
much smaller scale.
yeah.
It was a much smaller
Yeah.
scale. But this is a massive scale because this is being done worldwide. But here's what's happening: crime all over the world is down. And wait till you see the numbers that we have. This is migrant crime. This is
Bro,
crime
crime is
that's
down
that's
in
going to be.
Yeah.
America too,
And I saw it
dumbass. What the
today in
fuck
New
are you
York where
talking
somebody
about?
was knifed, where they
Are we dumping our fucking
raped the
criminals to
girlfriend
other
of a
countries
man that
too? I mean,
stood
we
there
have done that in
watching
El
in New
Salvador.
York in one of the shelters, and started
Sure.
pulling out the knives, and bad things happened today. But this is happening every day. These are rough people. These are people that are in jail for
Yeah.
murder and all sorts of things, and they're releasing them into our country, and they're telling them, if you come back, we're going to kill you. We're going to give you the death penalty or kill you. So they don't want to come back. But these are rough people.
Yeah.
These are criminals that make our criminals look like nice people, and it's horrible what they're doing. And she's in charge of it because now she's trying to say she
Sure.
had nothing to do with it, and she's such a liar because she was called the border czar the first day, and it was on the headlines of every newspaper. She's the border czar, and she never even went there. She went to one location which had nothing to do with where the problem is. She went in and out, I
Right.
guess, because she was getting a lot of pressure,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
had nothing to do where the problem
Yeah.
is. But she was
Well.
the
Well.
border czar, and the people
Yeah. Yeah.
can't allow them to get away with their disinformation campaign. Now she's trying to say that she wasn't really involved, and the whole thing is horrible. She was
Horrible.
totally in charge. She could have shut the border down without him. He didn't know what he was doing anyway, so he wouldn't have even known
Yeah.
what happened. You could shut the border down; he
Yeah.
wouldn't even know the difference. But uh, the
This is a good
fact is
line.
that she was
Not a bad
border
line.
czar.
Give him
But
credit for that
you don't
one.
have to call
Yes.
her that. The fact is, you could just call her. She was in charge of the border, and the border was the worst
Right.
ever.
It's simply not working.
No, it's
I mean,
horrible.
whether it's by whether it's a question of of intention or competence, either way, we don't have a secure border, and we have people streaming over like it looks like a World War Z zombie
The real
apocalypse.
issue is not the
And you know,
border,
sometimes
but the top of the
you
hour
gotta
ad
sort of
break
wonder, like,
and avoiding the
is it
top of the
real or
hour ad
not?
break by
So
subscribing.
because you see
Many
things
people don't
like,
want to
is it
know
real?
this. Many people don't want to do
went to the
this.
border at Eagle
But at the
Pass,
top of the
and I
hour,
saw
there's a
for
3-minute ad
myself
break. If
in
you no longer
Texas,
want to
and I
see
was
those
like,
ads, if you want an
okay,
uninterrupted
it's
broadcast
real.
experience, you
I'm
got to
like seeing this in
subscribe.
real time. I actually posted the video like just live.
Which you can do for
I
$6
just flew there one
or
day
for
and
free with a
just to
Twitch
see,
Prime
hey,
or by getting gifted a sub. Twitch
is
Primes
this
are free,
made up or real?
folks.
And I'm just seeing
Here's
people
a 3-minute ad
stream
break
across the
now.
border, and I have to say, you know, at least the people that I saw did not look friendly. You know, so
These are
people
people.
Who
people
do you
can
want to
look at
win,
my
Trump?
video and
I'm not
say,
sure
hey,
about
you
your
know,
standpoint, but you
these
surely
people
must
look
have an
friendly. I
opinion.
don't look super friendly. So
These are people that
um,
Elon would not be the same man if he had to walk across the street and look these people in the eye. These are rough people. These are really rough people coming across. And I know rough people. And these are people that we don't want in our country. And you know, the caravans are coming in and they're putting, and who's doing this are the heads of the countries. And you would be doing
yeah,
it, and so would I. And everyone would say, oh, what a terrible thing to say. The fact is, it's brilliant for them because they're taking all of their bad people, really bad people. And I hate to say this, the reason the numbers are much bigger than you would think is they're also taking their non-productive people. Now, these aren't people that will kill you. We have enough of them, but these are people that are non-productive. They are just not productive. I mean, for whatever reason, they're not
yeah.
workers or they don't want to work or whatever. And these countries
Bro,
are getting rid of
you have two
non-productive
fucking
people in the
spoiled
caravans.
billionaires coming from fucking multi-millionaire billionaire parents talking about how like the random Guatemalan dude that crossed the fucking border, trekked for thousands of miles to work for pennies on the dollar is unproductive.
Just before I got
Shut the
on here,
fuck up, bitch.
walking over here, and I saw an ad by Kamala
What are you
saying how she is
saying?
going to provide.
Anyone that believes this narrative is the dumbest fucking rube and deserves to have all their money stolen by these fucking dipshits. Straight up.
Yeah, I think this, frankly, I think this is a fundamental existential issue for the United States. And if we have another 4 more
Like we're
years
literally on the website of a guy who is demonstrably an incompetent asshole who bricked the fucking website that was at least
for the
usable
past,
before.
3.5 years, I'm not sure we've got a country
You don't
left
have a country
at that
left.
point.
Elon, if they get in, you will have 50 to 60 million people from all over the world, not South America only. You know, we think of South America, we think of Honduras and El Salvador, Guatemala, and Mexico, you know, the four. But it's not that. It's everywhere. They're coming in from
Yeah,
everywhere. And I had to stay in
yeah, I think
Mexico.
this is a super important
Yeah.
point. Like people, it's like basically when I went down there, I was like, well, where are people from? It's like almost no one was from Mexico. To be
No,
clear,
Mexico
it's
less,
it's just it's just
less
it's
than
just the
the others.
border. It's just the border with Mexico. But the people coming in, it's Earth, the rest of Earth, and America is only about 4 or 5% of the population of Earth. It would only take a few percent of the rest of Earth to overwhelm everything in the
We're
U.S.
already
So
overwhelmed, Elon. We're overwhelmed. You had to see the news tonight about New York. New York, and I love that place, and what they're doing to it is horrible, what they're doing to it. And all the courts do is they
yeah,
try and focus on Trump. Okay, then let's focus on Trump, who did nothing wrong. I complain about a rigged election. Elon, what's happened is unbelievable. You have from Africa, from the Congo, they're coming from the Congo, and 22 people came in from the Congo recently, and they're murderers, and they're dropped. They
What?
drop them. They take them out of jails, which is very expensive, you know, to maintain the jails. Although they don't do too much maintaining, I can tell you. But they take them out of jails, prisons. They take them out, and they bring them to the United States. They deposit them in the United States and say, "Don't ever come back, or you're going to be executed." And they don't want to come back, but they won't come back.
sure.
But they're coming from Africa. They're coming from Asia. They're coming from the Middle East. They're coming from South
Well,
America.
just
They're
Earth,
coming from
rest of Earth,
everywhere.
basically.
And there are a lot of
Yeah,
really
everywhere on
bad
Earth.
ones.
It's just an everywhere on Earth thing, and it's just not possible for the United States to absorb everyone from Earth, or even a few percent of the rest of Earth. It's just not possible.
Well,
So
Elon, we're going to have
that's
just to
yeah.
finish this up. We're going to have the largest deportation in history of this country, and we have no choice. Otherwise, we're going to have a country. What they've done to our country. Think of it, with in Venezuela and in some of these other countries, Crime is down 50, 60, 70, 80%. And you would be the same. You would have,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
tell you what, Venezuela has not gotten rid of all of them. They've gotten rid of about 70% of their really bad people. Their jails are about 50% uh, put into the United States. The same with other countries. Some
sure.
are at 30%, some are at 50%. They're all different. But the bottom line is they're all going to be at 100%. Why wouldn't you put 100% of it?
Yeah,
And they're doing it right now while this third-rate phony candidate. Don't forget, I beat Biden.
What?
He
What?
failed in the debate miserably. And, some
Oh,
people said, oh, gee, it's too bad. It's too bad he did so
he
badly,
did
or
beat
I
him in the
did well
debate
in the debate.
because
The
he was
first
dead.
night they said, wow, one of the people at CNN said that was the greatest debate performance I've ever witnessed. And then 2 days later, they didn't talk about that. They just said he was bad. But that's okay. That's the way I get treated, and I don't mind that at all. What I can
Because
tell
he
you is
didn't
this:
beat him. He was
that
bad.
we
He was
cannot have a
dying.
Democrat. We cannot have her. She's incompetent.
Bro's
She's as
dunking
bad as
on a
Biden in
fucking
different.
yeah,
Look, she
senile
hasn't
old
done an
man.
interview since this
yeah,
whole scam started.
well,
And say what you want. This
yeah,
was a coup. This was a coup of a president of the United States. He didn't want to leave, and they said we can do it the nice
yeah.
way or we can do it the
No,
hard way.
yeah. No, I mean, they just took him out back behind the shed and basically shot him.
Oh, what they did
Biden.
with this guy,
So
and I'm no
yeah,
fan of his, and he was a horrible president, the worst president in history. And one of the reasons he was so bad, first of all, the Israeli attack would have never happened. Russia would never have attacked Ukraine, and we'd have no inflation. And we wouldn't have had the Afghanistan mess, if you think of it.
well,
And we wouldn't have had
yeah,
Afghanistan. But we think of it,
well, yeah.
you take a few of those events away, and we have a different world. We would also have
No,
no
no, you're yeah.
inflation was caused by oil.
Yeah, no, no. I think you're making an excellent point here, which is that when other countries can, that are, are thinking about invading or doing bad things, when they're thinking about that, they're thinking about, okay, what's the American president going to do, and do they fear the American president, or is there someone they do not respect or and do not fear? And I think they would they rightfully be. I mean, look at the footage of the assassination. They're like, okay, you know, uh, President Trump is like,
Uh,
don't mess with me. I mean, that's like, whereas I think people are not going to be, and they obviously have not been at all intimidated by Biden, and they certainly will not be intimidated by Kamala. And you have to really think of that in the context of global security. That if the American president is someone that like evil dictators are scared of, that makes a huge difference to the security of the world.
So I had a good relationship with Putin, despite the Russia hoax that lasted for over 2 years. Just a hoax created by Hillary Clinton and Adam Shifty Schiff, some just bad people, just sick people, frankly. I mean, Schiff is a sick person. He's going to end up probably being a senator. It's hard to believe. The whole thing is hard to believe. But, they put our country
he's
in
a
danger with
sick
that stuff,
person.
too. They actually, when they make up stories, and you have to fight your way out of it for a long time. But I know Putin very well. I got along with him very well. He respected me, and it's just one of those things. And we would talk a lot about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye. But I said, don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. I shut down Nord Stream 2. That was the big oil pipeline, the biggest, I think, the biggest pipeline in the world going all over Europe. I shut it down. Biden came, and then they say,
Yeah,
I loved Russia. I was a friend of Putin, and I loved Russia. No, he actually said to me one time, he said, if you're my friend, I'd hate to see you as an enemy. I shut down his
Wait,
pipeline,
what?
the biggest pipeline. They were looking at that to
yeah,
fund, and this pathetic president gets in there, and the first thing he did, one of the early things he did, is he shut down Keystone XL pipeline, which is our pipeline that would have employed 48,000 people, pipeline workers, shuts it down. That was, a massive job that Obama refused to allow.
yeah,
I allowed it in my first week because it was jobs and it moved oil. And by the way, in a much more environmentally friendly way. It's underground. It's not a truck that catches on fire or a train that catches on fire. But think of it. He shut down the uh, XL pipeline, the Keystone XL pipeline. He
yeah,
shuts that down and he approves the Russian pipeline,
yeah. It doesn't make any
right?
sense. It's like it's inconsistent. Um, Certainly, but I mean, I think it's just worth emphasizing to listeners that the immense importance of whether the United States president is intimidating or not intimidating, and how much that matters to global security, because there's some real tough characters out there, and if they don't think the American president is tough, they will do what they want to
I
do,
know every one of
and
them.
it puts the whole
Yeah.
world in danger.
Elon, I know every one
It's
of
a
them,
big
and I
deal.
know them well. I know
Yeah.
Putin. I know President Xi. I know Kim Jong-un of North Korea. I know every one of them. And let me tell you, people will say, oh, this is terrible. He said, I'm not saying anything good or bad. They're at the top of their game. They're tough. They're smart. They're vicious. And they're going to protect their country, whether they love their country. They probably do. It's just a different form of love, but they're going to protect their country. But these
Yeah.
are tough people at the top of their game. And when they see a Kamala or when they see Biden, Sleepy Joe, they can't even
Yeah.
believe it. They can't believe this happened. All the stuff that you're seeing now, all the horror that you look at Israel, they're all waiting for an attack from Iran. Iran would not be attacking, believe me. You know, when I was there, and I say it with respect because I think we would have been good with Iran. I don't want to do anything bad to Iran, but they knew not to mess around. Iran was broke because I told China, if you buy from Iran oil, it's all about the oil. That's where the money is. But if you buy oil from Iran, you're not going to do any business with the United States. And I meant it. And they said, we'll
Yeah.
pass.
Yeah.
They didn't buy oil. Other countries, likewise,
Sure.
you want to buy, you're not doing business with the United States. And they were at a point where they had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. They had no money for any of these instruments of terror. And it was amazing. In fact, there were articles when I was leaving, which is hard to believe, actually, especially when you look at what's happened to our country. Our country is so bad right now. It's such a different place. We were respected. Think of it. 4 years ago, we were so respected to a point where when I said don't buy oil, they didn't buy oil, but they had no money,
Yeah. Yeah.
and Israel
Why
would
am
have
I so
never
quiet?
been attacked.
It's just like I'm
Zero
in utter
chance.
disbelief
And
of
again, I said to Vladimir
how
Putin, I
similar
said,
this
"Don't
is
do
to
it.
every fucking
You
Trump
can't do it,
ramble
Vladimir.
rant.
You do it, it's going to be a bad
He's just
day.
literally
You
cooking up the
cannot do it."
same exact
And
fucking
I told
nonsense.
him things that what I do, and he said, "No way." And I said,
Yeah, I'm
"Way."
quiet because my goats are
And you know, it's the
talking.
last time we ever had the conversation. He would never have done. I got along well with him. I hope to get along well with him again. You know, getting along well with them is
I
a
can't
good
believe
thing,
I
not
still
a
haven't
bad
gotten a
thing. I got
bingo.
along well with
Yeah.
Kim Jong Un. When I met with President Obama just before entering, you know, it's a sort of a ritual. And I sat down with him and we talked. It was supposed to be for a very short period of time. It turned out to be a long period of time. I said, "What's the biggest problem?" He said, "North Korea." I had that problem worked out very quickly. It was nasty at the beginning with Rocket Man and, you know, all the different things.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden I got a call.
Those were some epic tweets, by the way.
Yeah, they
Those
were
were
no,
like
they were
Oh,
epic
pretty.
everything. He said that he has a red button on his desk. I said, I have a red button on my desk too, but my red button is much bigger and my red button works. And then I called him Little
Yeah.
Rocket Man of Little Rocket Man. Anyway, here's the bottom line. All of a sudden I got a call from him
bingo.
and they said they want to meet. They want to meet me. And we met,
Yeah.
as you remember, we met in Singapore. We met also in Vietnam.
Epic tweets.
And I got along with them great. We were
Yeah.
in no danger. But
Yeah.
President Obama,
It's because
Obama
they
thought we were going
respond.
to end up in
Yeah.
a war, a nuclear war with him. And let me tell you, he's
Yeah.
got a
It's not
lot of
true.
nuclear
Yeah,
stuff too. He's
exactly.
got plenty of nuclear.
It's
He can do plenty of
it's
damage. So
yes. I mean, it's because I mean, people like Kim Jong Un, they respond to
yeah.
strength, not weakness.
Well,
And
he
and
he and I got it.
if you
He and I
project
had a good
strength,
relationship.
you're,
Remember, I
yeah.
remember I met him and we walked onto his land. Nobody ever walked onto his land before. I walked onto. I wouldn't say.
Yeah.
Let's bring
Other
up
cool.
Secret
subscribers, there was
Service
a
again. I wouldn't say they
99%
were
chance
thrilled when I
Elon was
did
lying
that. I
about
walked
an
onto
attack.
his land, and it was
Yeah,
it
the
was an
rest of the
amazing
website
period.
was working fine.
But we were not in danger with him because of me. You know, I always
Yeah.
say that we have enemies on the outside and we have enemies on the inside.
When
We
you
have
ask the
some really
question, I
bad
can't believe
people
there are
in our
people that
government
would vote for this guy.
and
Yes,
people
dude.
that are
Think about the
controlling
worst person
the
you've
people.
ever met
I mean, I
in your
mentioned
daily
names, but
interactions.
I really don't
Like
want to
just
give the
an
credit.
overall
But we have some really
repugnant,
bad, and I say they're more
awful
dangerous
dude who's
than
just angry all the
Russia and
time.
China.
Why wouldn't he
If
vote for
you
this
have
guy?
a smart president, a president that gets it.
There's
We are
plenty
not
of
in
dog
danger
shit
from
people
them
out there who are like,
because
yeah,
they
this
need
is
us and
great.
they
Oh,
need our
I
help.
love him.
I mean, we forced Obama, if you think about it, Obama and Biden and
Did you
Bush
see
to a
End
certain
Wokeness
extent,
is
in all
Jack
fairness,
Posobiec? He
forced
accidentally posted a Jack
Russia
tweet on it and deleted it
and
and then posted on the
China
correct account right
together.
after. Please tell me you
And
logged
if
it.
you're a history student, the first thing you learn is you cannot let Russia and China align. But then they also got, if you take a look, Iran, and they have North Korea. That's, they call it the axis of evil. In the old days, you had the axis of evil. Here we have a modern day axis of evil. These are powerful countries, very heavy nuclear, which is the biggest threat.
Yeah.
The biggest threat is not global warming, where the ocean's going to rise one eighth of an inch over the next 400 years. And you'll have more oceanfront property, right? The biggest threat is not that. The biggest threat is nuclear warming, because we have 5 countries
What?
now that
Yeah.
have significant nuclear
Elon
power,
said what?
and we have to not allow anything to happen with stupid people like Biden. Biden did something with Russia. There was no chance of him ever going in. And when I
Nuclear
left, and then
warming.
then after I left, they started
It comes
forming
after nuclear
big
winter.
armies on the border with Ukraine, right? And I looked at that, and I thought he was doing that because Putin's a good negotiator. I thought he was doing that to negotiate. But then Biden started saying such stupid things. For instance, he said that it can be a NATO country. Now, Russia, for as long as there's been NATO, has said we're never going to agree to that. And we go right up front and say that. And we did things and said things through this president with a low IQ, very low IQ. He had a low IQ 30 years ago, by the way, but now he might not even have a IQ at all. There's nothing on the board that goes this low. He said things that were so stupid that war would have been, that war had zero chance of happening if I were there. Zero chance. He was saying everything
Yeah.
the opposite. Everything the opposite.
Someone should remind him he's not running against Biden.
Many more people have been killed in Ukraine.
I think he forgot. He went back to his old speeches so hard, he's still
Just in
cooking
the 2
Biden,
armies, you
dude.
lost 500,000 people, and
Yeah.
Ukraine's having a hard time. Ukraine, I don't know if you saw the article recently, and it's true. You don't
He
hear the true story.
I suspect he forgot.
If you think about it, Russia's gone. Russia defeated Germany with us, and they defeated Napoleon. They've been around a long time. They're a big fighting force,
Yeah. So,
and it's
of course.
very unfair. And Ukraine now doesn't have enough men. They're now using young men and very old men to fight, and we're in a very bad position. And I'm not going to blame exclusively, but I can tell you I could have stopped that, and a smart president could have stopped that. It wouldn't have happened. But we had a man that actually made it. It made it more prevalent. It was so bad. The words that he was using, the stupid threats coming from a stupid face that he was using. I said, this guy's going to cause us a war. He's going to cause us. And let me tell you, it can lead to World War III. That can lead to World War III. The Middle East can lead to. We have numerous places that could end up in a World War III right now for no reason whatsoever.
I think you're right. I think people underrate the risk of World War III, and it's just when you're looking at the risk of global thermonuclear warfare, it's game over for humanity, and it's something that people have, I think, after the end of the Cold War, people have become complacent about, but they actually have forgotten that there are currently a lot of nuclear missiles that have targeting parameters for the United States from other
100%.
countries.
And one of the things we're going to do is we're going to build
yeah.
an Iron Dome over us. Israel has it. We're going to have the best Iron Dome in the world. We need it, and we're going to make it all in the United States. But we're going to have protection, because it just takes one maniac
Israel won't let
start
us.
something. We're going to have protection.
Sir, we have to ask permission for Israel if we can use it or not.
Some other places
Yeah.
have one that nobody even knows about, frankly. But
I'm not kidding. I
Israel
think
has
he
it. We're
thinks
gonna
the
have an
Iron Dome is literally a
But,
dome.
with all of that being said, to me,
There is a non-zero chance he thinks it's an actual dome.
But with
like
all
in
of
The
that being
Simpsons.
said, the election's coming up, and the people want to hear about
Like
the
he was the
economy
president.
and the fact that
I
they can't buy
he has to
groceries
know we
because
have
they
like
don't have enough
defense
money to buy
systems
groceries.
already.
The inflation has killed them. Food prices are up 50, 60, even 100% in some cases. And this stupid administration allowed this to happen, and it's a shame. And that's the thing that people most care about, in my opinion. They care about the border a lot, and we discuss the border at great length. It's nice to have a forum like this where I can discuss something at length. And by the way, you think Biden could do this interview? Do you think that Kamala could do this interview? They would take a pass on
No, they
you.
could not.
So they don't need
Wait, well, yeah,
Elon.
because he's sucking you. Like, yeah, I'm sure Kamala would love to do a fucking non-contentious, non-adversarial conversation with a random
that somebody
billionaire
that
that
does
loves
this for a
her.
living can't answer a question or is afraid to do an interview. And in her case, with a very friendly interview, she's got all friendly interviewers. It's pretty sad.
Yes,
But the
absolutely.
big thing now is the
Well,
economy, Elon.
yeah,
And as much as
yeah.
I mean, I view nuclear as the single most important thing, but a lot of people don't. A lot
Wait,
of people
really?
don't
I asked the
understand
Trump
that. But it
campaign.
doesn't have to. If I understand it,
I
that's
asked
all
the
you
Trump
need.
campaign why
Because
the
if
coup
I was
attempted criminal
president,
former
you're
president
not going to
slurring
have
his
that kind
words
of a
and lisping.
problem.
The
But
campaign's response
the
must be your
thing that
shitty
they
hearing. Get your
really
ears checked
is
out.
making them angry is what Kamala and
There's
Biden
no
have
way
allowed
that's.
to happen to the
Is that guy a
economy.
real
It's
Huffington
a
Post
disaster
correspondent?
with inflation. The
Because that's
inflation.
crazy.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what you make. The inflation has eaten you alive. If you're a worker or if you're just a middle income person, you can't afford. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, people were saving a lot of money. Today, they're using
Yeah.
all their money and borrowing money just to live. It's a horrible thing
Right.
that's happening, and we'll end that
Well, I think
quickly.
a lot of yeah, a lot of people just don't understand where inflation comes from. Inflation comes from government overspending because the checks never bounce when it's written by the government. So if the government
Oh
spends far
God.
more than it brings in, that increases the money supply, and if the money supply increases faster than the rate of goods and services,
That's right.
that's inflation. Um, so really, we need
Shut
to
up,
have
nerd.
we need
Shut the
to
fuck up,
reduce our
nerd.
government spending, and we need to re-examine. I think we need
Actually,
like a
inflation
government
comes from
efficiency
government
commission
spending.
to say like, hey, where are we spending money that's sensible?
Trump
Where is
also
it not
dumped
sensible?
boatloads during COVID. What the
And
fuck do
we
you
need to
mean?
look at
That
it
would
now.
mean that it's Trump's fault that
We're
inflation is
currently
happening.
adding, I think, $1
The
trillion
fuck?
to the deficit every
Dude, this is
roughly every 100
insane that
days.
Elon Musk talks about
And
government
you know,
spending.
the
Your
interest
entire
payments on the
billionaire
national
status
debt
comes from
will now
government
exceed
spending.
the
You
defense
literally
budget.
have never done
It's on
a
the order of $1
singular
trillion.
endeavor that does not
And it
require
keeps
billions of dollars of
Rebuilt
checks
our
being written to
military,
you.
largely rebuilt our
Literal
military,
fucking
did a
green
great job
energy
on it, which is
credits
so important. We had
kept
jets, we
Tesla
had fighters
afloat
that
in
were,
times when they were
and bombers
literally
that were
about to go
70
under.
years old. And
Oh my
we did a
God!
great job in that. Then by the way, we gave 85 billion of it back
Subsidies
to
fueled
Afghanistan. If
the
you can believe
Tesla
it, we gave them
rise.
85 billion.
Your
They're one of the
brother
largest
and
sellers
Yeah.
of
and
military
yourself
equipment in the
built
world.
a
They're
fucking
selling what
solar
we gave
energy
them.
panel company again
That
with
was
government
one of the
funds.
most embarrassing days in the
SpaceX
history of our
is
country.
a government
But,
outsourced
if you
operation
think
off of
about,
NASA.
let's go back to the economy.
I hate this
We have to
motherfucker.
bring energy
Yeah.
prices down. Energy started it. The price of gasoline. Now your
did
cars
not make
don't require
PayPal.
too
Shut the
much
fuck up.
gasoline, so you have a good, and you do make a great product. I have to say, I have to be honest with you.
Thank
That
you.
doesn't mean everybody should have an electric car, but these are minor details. But your product is incredible. But the
Thank you.
gasoline, Elon, is the cost of energy. Not only gasoline, it's the cost of heating your
No,
house
don't
and
close that.
cooling your
Don't close
house.
that. It's too.
That has
Sure.
to come down.
Why?
It's gone up
Why?
100%, 150, and 200%, and that has to come down. When that comes down, and we're going to
Yeah.
drill, baby, drill. They stopped drilling, and then they went back to drilling because they went back to the Trump policy. But if they won the day after they get into office, this country will go out of business because they're going to go to an energy policy that's not sustainable. Wind and different things. You're not going to have anything.
Yeah.
And I know you're a big fan of the AI, and I have to say
Yeah.
that AI, and this is shocking to me, but AI requires twice the energy that the country already produces for everything. So you're going to have to build. We're going to have to build a lot of energy if our country will be competitive with China, because that's our primary competitor for this on the AI. You're
Sure.
going to need a lot of
Well, I mean,
electricity. You're going to need tremendous
yeah.
electricity, like almost double what we produce now for the whole country, if you can believe it.
Sure. Well, just going, back to this, like this basic thing, which that people try to make it sound complicated, but it's not. But inflation is caused by government
Right.
overspending. Would you agree that we need to take a look at government
Yes.
spending and have perhaps a government efficiency commission that just tries to make the spending sensible and so the country lives within its means, just like a
The
person does?
waste is incredible, and nobody
It
negotiates
is.
prices. You used to have a lot of people making jets, and you end up with two companies, and they'll probably try and merge at some point. I mean, I went through it. like Air Force, just a thing like Air Force One. One of the first documents they asked me to sign, a general walks in, sir, will you please sign this document? And what is it? Air Force One. That's with Boeing, which is basically two planes, two 747s. And the price was
Yeah.
$5.7 billion for two planes. Now they're
Wow.
highly sophisticated.
That's
They're
insane.
even nicer than your plane, okay? But much more sophisticated. They're very, I won't say what's on it, but they got a lot of stuff on it. Anyway, but it's
Sure.
5.7. I
That's a crazy
It's a
number.
crazy number, but I said, I'm not going to pay 5.7. I'm not going to do it. I said, who made the deal? Obama and his people. I said, well, then I know the deal's no good. I'm not going to do it. And over a course of about 4 weeks, by my saying I'm not going to do it, I got the price reduced by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane, other than we had a nicer paint job, if you want to know the truth. But for the exact same plane, I saved one. And I said to Boeing, man, you guys must make a lot of money if you can reduce the price by that. But now what I do hear is that they're going back to the Biden administration and wanting big cost overruns, because they see these dopey suckers in there and they'll end up getting some of the money back. But I shaved it by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane. And you can now take that and multiply that out times thousands of other
Exactly.
items. And
Multiply it by
yeah,
a
the
zillion,
numbers are
and yeah.
astronomical. I agree with you.
Well, I mean, if so, I think it would be great to just have a government efficiency commission that takes a look at these things and just ensures that the taxpayer money, the taxpayers' hard-earned money, is spent in a good way. I'd be happy to help out on
We
such a
can't have that.
commission.
We
I'd
got to
love
spend
it.
unlimited billions on Israel,
You're the
though.
greatest cutter. I mean, I
Both of
look
you
at
guys
what you
agree
do.
on
You
that.
walk in and you just say, you want to quit? They go on
Yeah.
strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike and you say, that's okay. You're all gone. You're all gone. So every one of you is gone. And you
Oh,
are the
he's so
greatest.
pro
You would be
labor.
very good.
Remember
Most
when he
you'd
had
love it.
Sean
But
O'Brien
if you
at the
look at
RNC?
Argentina,
Well, I'd be happy to
yeah, by
help
the way,
out.
congratulations. I
Yeah.
just looked at the number of people that are listening to you and I chat. We'll call it a chat. But
Yeah.
congratulations. This is very good. I mean, it's great. And you're an interesting character. The new head of a place called Argentina, and he's a big,
Malay's
he's
awesome.
he's great. And
Yeah.
he's a big MAGA fan, that he ran on MAGA. And he took it to an extreme too. He ran on MAGA, and I hear he's doing really a terrific
Yeah,
job.
it's so
He went to
terrific.
a place,
267%
Argentina, great
inflation in
again. It worked
Argentina
out
right now.
perfectly. He came in, he bought a lot of hats, he brought over, but he's doing a big job. He really cut. And I'm hearing
Yeah.
they're starting to do pretty well. Inflation's getting down. They had like
Yes, exactly.
2,000%. And they had inflation like not normal inflation. They had the real deal. But we're going to
Yeah.
have that pretty soon. We have, I think we
Yeah.
have the worst inflation we've had in 100 years. They say it's 48 years. I don't believe it. I think we have the worst. They
Yeah.
don't include a lot of the items that should be included, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's just from government overspending and not spending taxpayer money
Yeah,
effectively, and having just like so many departments, you can't even name them all. And what Malay is doing is he's cutting government spending. He's simplifying things. He's having putting in regulations that make sense, and we're Argentina overnight is experiencing a giant improvement
that's
in
right.
prosperity. But it's also a lesson for the United States, which is that um, Argentina used to be one of the most prosperous countries in the world. Um,
That's right.
in the like in the 30s, 40s, and because of bad government policy, it ruined the country. And if you take Venezuela, for example, Venezuela should be incredibly prosperous. They have phenomenal reserves of everything, oil,
Yeah,
everything, and
Trump
it
literally
should be
hardened the
prosperous. But
sanctions on
because of government
Venezuela. He's the
policy,
reason why
it
they're fucking
impoverishes the
collapsing.
people. And so I think we should not be complacent in the United States in thinking that and taking our
What
prosperity
the
for
fuck?
granted, because if with bad government policy, we can run the country into the ground. And that's just something people should bear in mind. Don't take prosperity for granted.
Well, think of education. So we're ranked at the bottom of every list of the top 40. We're ranked number 40, number 38. Uh, Norway, Switzerland, Sweden, different countries are ranked good. Actually,
Huh.
China's pretty
I
close to
wonder
the top. They're a
why.
top 6 or 7. but
I
we're right
wonder
at the bottom,
why.
almost at the bottom, 38, 39, 40.
I fucking
In other
hate
words,
these
horrible.
demons. They're
And
literally
yet we
advocating
spend more
against
per
policies
pupil
right
than any other
now.
country in the world. So we spend more. And what I'm going to do, one of the first acts, and this is where I need an Elon Musk. I need somebody that has a lot of strength and courage and smarts. I want to close up Department of Education, move education back to the states, where
Yeah.
where states like Iowa, where states like Idaho,
That's
you know,
insane.
not every
That's
state will do
he's
great,
literally
because states
arguing.
that basically aren't doing good now. You look at Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. He he's terrible. He does a terrible job. So he's not going to do great with education. But of the
Yeah.
50, I
This
would bet
motherfucker's
that
like, I hate Project
35 would
2025,
be
but also abolish
great,
the Department of
and
Education.
15 of
Yeah.
them, or 20 of them will be as good as
He
Norway.
hates Project
Norway's
2025,
considered
by the way.
great.
Remember?
You can name them. I mean, they're so good. Some of
Yeah.
these countries are so good. But if you go into some of these really well-run states, we have states that don't know what debt is. We have states that have low taxes, no
California has
debt,
a surplus.
everybody working. They're really well
California
run.
literally has a
Sure.
surplus.
And maybe they have certain advantages in terms of location, in terms of the land or the sun, and the water and the whole thing. There are a lot of advantages that some people have. But if you moved education back to the 50, you'll have some that won't do well, but they'll actually be forced to do better, because it'll be a pretty bad situation. But
Yeah.
but if you think
Well,
about it,
yeah.
you'll have some
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
these states. I'll bet you'd have 30, 35 states. It'll be much better. And you know what it'll cost? Less than
Yeah.
half what it is in Washington. And
Yeah.
these people don't care
Well,
about the
yeah.
students in these, faraway states. And it'd
Well,
be unbelievable.
yeah. I think you're making a good point in that if the states have to if each state has to compete against other states, then people will
That's
naturally
right.
move to states where it's better.
Well, like
Um,
California, as we said, it's a badly run state. I could go through. I got so many friends that are in those states, even if they're Democrats. I hate to mention certain states, but Illinois is badly run with Pritzker. He's a real loser. But
yeah.
but some of these places are just badly run. But it's almost going to force them to run better, and they won't do a good initially. But you're not going to do worse than you're doing right now. And I would say that
Yeah.
the cost, you would cut your cost by 50 or 60%. And you'd have a little
Yeah. Yeah.
monitor. You want to make sure they're teaching English as an example. Give us a
Yeah.
little English, right?
Sure, yeah.
Right?
No, but I mean, too much. Some of these governors are doing so badly. I mean, they got so many people moving out of their state. They should get U-Haul Salesman of the Year award because they're driving so much U-Haul
It's
sales.
actually
It's just
amazing.
people moving out.
Isn't it amazing to you as a businessman that they can even survive? Like Illinois, so many people are leaving, and you wonder, how do they survive? I mean, how do they survive? Uh, I saw where you left California and you moved to Texas. Texas does a great job. But, I
Yeah,
mean, I just wonder, how do these states survive when big businesses, a big oil company just left California, as you know, and they moved to Texas. How do these big states survive when they lose so many businesses and their taxes are already really high? The taxes are among the highest
yeah.
taxes. You almost wonder, how do they continue on? And in many cases, the governors don't do a good job, and they're crime-ridden places. You wonder, how do they continue to just go on? It's not. It's
Well,
I like
not.
the
A,
idea
I
of
think there's.
simultaneously being like, these governors fucking
I mean, I
suck,
think
and
the
also
thing
they
that
should
the
handle
only
the
thing that's going to
education
force some of these states to
and
change
not
is
the
if they risk
Department of
bankruptcy
Education.
and they're not getting bailed out by the federal
Right,
government.
right. Well,
That's
you're
the
going to
only thing
have
that's going to
that.
get them changed.
You remember the
Yeah,
area in California where they had that, where I guess somebody had sticky fingers and they stole a lot of money, and they went into a form of chapter, and it was very
yeah,
nasty
yeah.
for a period of time. But now it's probably the most popular place in all of California. So at some point, something like that may have to happen. But the problem is, you can't penalize people that loan money to the state when you have incompetent people like a Pritzker. Look, the family didn't want him in the family business, and then he ends up being governor of Illinois. So what is he going to be? Is he going to be a great governor? And you have people. I could name every one of them. I got to know every one of
Yep.
these, and some are very good, and some are just horrible.
Well, I think that I mean the larger point here, too, as you're saying, like a lot of people are concerned about the economy, a lot of people are concerned about inflation, and inflation is effectively a tax on people that save money
Yeah.
and for people that are working day to
Keep
day.
Pritzker's name out of your mouth.
It's just a
As a
form of
real big boy
taxation.
and a real billionaire, you fucking
And
asshole.
if we can solve the government spending problem, we'll solve the inflation problem, which means people will have a better standard of living, and
Yeah.
that's a really
Piece of
big
Well, the
shit.
deal.
people that got hurt
Um,
worse are the people that did it the way they were taught to do it all
That's my
through,
real
their
goat.
younger life and their young life and their whole life. The people that saved money and then they got no interest on their money and inflation destroyed them. And frankly, they were almost better off if they didn't do anything like that. I mean, those people have been absolutely decimated, and we're going to bring those people back and help those people. We've got to get the prices down. When I look at bacon costing 4 or 5 times more than it did a few years ago,
sure.
when you look at some of the food products in grocery stores,
Donald
people
Trump
know
has
they can't
never
believe it.
purchased
They
food
used to be
at the
able to buy
grocery.
a whole cart, and they,
Like he's never.
a lot of people just
I don't think in
don't
his entire
have
life.
the money. They go in and they can't buy anything. They look at
Yeah.
it's
Can you
sticker
imagine
shock.
him
They
walking
call it
into a
sticker
fucking
shock, right?
Publix? Like just
I
walking
think it really just
casually
comes
into a
down,
Publix,
just comes down to
even
two
before he
things. I
became
think
president.
really two things, which is that if you solve government overspending, you solve inflation, which improves living
Right.
standards of the average person, and then if you deregulate, like have sensible regulations, so because a lot of the regulations are nonsensical and cause the cost to be extreme for no reason. But unless you've got effective deregulation, like Reagan did a great job on deregulation in the 80s, but it's been 40 years since we had
The absolute dumbest people on the planet are listening to this interview and are going to be repeating these like basic fucking idiotic pro-capitalist fallacies over and over again.
Well, Elon,
those two things, yeah, those are the big
yeah,
deals.
we set a record. We did more deregulation and more restrictions on all
Like
of the different
deregulation.
businesses than
I
any
wonder
other
why
president.
two
I
billionaires have
remember
a.
I had the rule for everyone.
Two
we put
billionaires
in, you have
love
to
the
get rid
idea of
10 or
deregulation. I
12.
wonder how that will
And
help
we
the
did
average
radical
person.
cuts on all of that, and a lot of that's being put back by this administration. And we did radical cuts on things
The
that weren't
fucking
necessary.
Chevron
But
deference
we were
getting gutted
all set.
has
We had the
caused
best
the
economy
U.S. Navy to
ever
deny
maybe in the world. And
that
then
they are
what
actually
happened is
polluting the
COVID
water
came
with
in,
forever chemicals,
and we had to
PFAS.
focus on that.
Like that
Nobody knew what
literally
it
was an
was.
article that came out
And I always say I
yesterday
got
or
good
something.
marks on economy, good marks on military. We knocked out ISIS. We did so many different things. We rebuilt. But, I never got the credit that we really deserved on what we did with COVID. We never got the credit. But if had that not happened, a gift from China, from Wuhan, came in from Wuhan, the Wuhan labs, and I always said it, and it turned out to be right. But
Yeah.
had that not happened, we were set to start reducing debt. We were going to reduce taxes further. I gave the largest tax cuts, and we were going to reduce taxes still further for middle income people, not only businesses. But we did it for businesses because they're the ones that's why we had the great job numbers. But we were set to really start reducing debt. And, we're sitting on the biggest pile of liquid gold anywhere in the world, bigger than Saudi Arabia, bigger than Russia. And we were going to drill, and we were going to make so much money. We were going to supply Europe with oil. I had stopped the Russian pipeline, and we were going to supply them with oil and gas. We were going to make a fortune. And then the COVID came in, and we really had to divert. Then what
Who
happened
do you
is
think
when
this
they
helps?
came in, we kept a lot of businesses alive. If I didn't do what we did, we would have had a
That's
1929
deregulation.
type depression.
Who do you
But
think
the
that helps,
problem is
chat?
when Biden came in, he got trillions of dollars and just started spending it stupidly. You didn't need it anymore. We got over that bad period where everybody was dying and feeling, it was just not a good period. Interestingly, during his administration, many more people died during his administration of COVID than during my administration, and we really got the brunt of it. But people don't realize more people died during his administration than ours. But it diverted us from doing what I wanted to do. But we had the greatest for almost 3 years. We had the
Yeah.
great, and you know that probably better than anybody. So many of your friends said to me, the best years we've ever had in business were during the Trump years, and also said that African American, Hispanic American were so incredible.
There's something really
They
funny
were having
about
the best
so,
Asian American women, men,
there's something really funny about
young
Trump
people
denying
without a diploma, young people that
climate
graduated
change
from the best colleges,
to Elon Musk, who's supposed to
from
be a
MIT,
champion
from
of
the
climate
Wharton School,
justice.
from all of the great colleges,
He's
Harvard.
talking about drill,
They
baby,
were
drill,
doing
and
better,
oil
and people
pipelines
without
to
a
Elon
diploma were
Musk, who
doing
is like
better.
an EV
And
evangelist.
everybody was happy. And then COVID came, and we had
Sure.
the problem is they spent trillions and trillions of dollars. They wasted. They shouldn't have taken any money, and we wouldn't be having inflation right now, which is killing our country.
Yeah. Yeah, and absolutely. And I mean, I should probably say something about like, maybe my views on, climate change
Yeah.
and oil and gas, because I think I'm probably different from what most people would assume. Because my views are actually pretty, I think, moderate in this regard, which is that I don't think we should vilify the oil and gas industry and the people that have worked very hard in those industries to provide the necessary energy to support the economy. And if we were to stop using oil and gas right now, we would all be starving, and the
He's
economy
such a
would
bitch,
collapse.
dude.
So it's, I don't think it's right to sort of vilify the oil and gas industry.
He's such a bitch.
The world has a certain demand for oil and
Cock!
gas, and it's probably better if the United States provides that than some other countries. It would help with prosperity in the U.S.
Bro is
And at the
literally
same time,
fucking
also,
3 minutes
my
away
view
from being
is
like,
like
EVs are
we do
gay,
over time
actually.
want
I
to
hate them.
to
I hate people who
a
drive
sustainable
EVs.
energy
They
economy,
are
because
obviously
eventually we do
homosexual
run out of.
Marxists.
I mean,
We should
we run
stop
out
the
of oil and
production
gas.
of electric
It's not
vehicles.
there. It's not infinite. And there is some risk. I think the risk is not as high as a lot of people say it is with respect to global warming. But I think if you just keep increasing the parts per million in the atmosphere long enough, eventually it actually simply gets uncomfortable to breathe. People don't realize this. If you go past 1,000 parts per million of CO2, you start getting headaches and nausea. And so we're now in the sort of 400 range. We're adding, I think, about roughly 2 parts per million per year. So I mean, it still gives us. So what it means is like we still have quite a bit of time, but so there's not like we don't need to rush, and we don't need to like stop farmers from farming, or you know uh, prevent people from having steaks or
Right.
basic stuff like
Right.
that. Like you leave the farmers alone.
I agree.
In
How
my opinion.
crazy is that? Where
I mean,
you have farmers that are not allowed to farm anymore and have to get rid of their cattle, and the
What?
whole world is
yeah,
a
that's
little
silly.
crazy. But it's largely taken its lead from us. I just say though, I've heard in terms of the fossil fuel, because even to create your electric car and create the electricity needed for the electric car. Fossil fuel is what really creates that at the generating plants. And, so you sort of can't get away from it at this moment. I mean, someday you might be able to. But I do hear we have anywhere from 100 to 500 years left. Much of it hasn't even been found yet.
Yeah.
But there are tremendous, like Anwar. I got Anwar in Alaska approved. Ronald Reagan couldn't do it. Nobody could do it.
Bro, I'm
Everybody
not kidding.
tried. Nobody
Like,
could do it. I got it
if there
approved.
were normal, if
The
this was
first
a
thing
normal
that Biden
market
did was
responsive to the key
unimprove it,
man,
to
openly
get rid of
fucking
it.
like
He ended it.
glazing an
His,
antagonistic industry that it's
his
like
secretary went in and
choosing
he
to
ended it.
destroy
And what
Elon
a
Musk and
disgrace.
Tesla.
That's Anwar.
Tesla
That's
stocks will be in the
bigger, or
fucking
they
pooper.
think it could
But
be
it is
bigger
not
than
a
Saudi
normal
Arabia
market.
in Alaska.
It does not
Could be
respond
bigger
to
than
normal
Saudi
market
Arabia.
factors.
But they
It is
went in and they
completely out of whack.
and I'll get it going very quickly, because not
Like, can
only
you
is it
imagine?
big for Alaska. I mean, you talk about economic development. That for the United States, I mean, that is, they say bigger than Saudi Arabia or the same
You look
size,
extra pale and maybe
and
stressed too much. I
pure,
look extra
really
pale.
good stuff. And, they end it. So I think we have, perhaps hundreds of years left. Nobody really knows. But during that
I mean,
time,
my
something will
estimate.
come around that will be
Yeah,
very good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and my estimate would be, a little more aggressive than that. But it's not the sort of like we're all going to die in 5 years stuff. That's obviously BS. Um, but I mean, my view is like if you just look at sort of the parts per million that increments every year, you get sort of 2 or 3 parts per million every year of CO2. Uh, y- I mean, I think some of that it's problematic if it accelerates, if you start going from 2 or
Right.
3 to say 5, and then there may be some situations where you get just a step change increase in the CO2.
Mm-hmm.
and I think we don't want to get too close to 1,000 ppm, because like that's actually makes it uncomfortable to breathe. Like just existing in 1,000 ppm CO2 is uncomfortable. That's like
Trump does not
like an industrial
understand
hazard,
this
right?
gay nerd shit that
it's,
you're talking
you
about.
know,
He's like, what are you
that's
saying?
actually, you start getting headaches and stuff. So it's
Are you a
even without
queer
global
radical
warming,
Marxist?
it's not comfortable to live. So you don't want to get too close to that. But I mean, I think we've got. I think we want to just move over and like.
I just want to
if,
know what
if
Trump looks
I don't
like
know,
right now.
50 to
I want to
100
look.
years
I want
from
to know
now,
so bad.
we're I don't know, mostly sustainable. I think that'll probably be okay. So it's not like the house is on fire immediately, but I think
I
it
like
is
the
something
idea that
we
we
need
should
to move
get to
towards.
a
And on
we should keep
on
fracking
balance, it's
until
probably
the
better to
air is
move
not breathable, as though
there
the entire
faster than
global
slower.
ecosystem won't
But like I said,
collapse
without vilifying the
like
oil
a
and gas
century
industry,
before we get to that point.
and without
What the fuck are you
causing
saying,
hardship in the
dumbass?
short term. I think this can be done without, but people can still have, a stake, and
Yeah,
they can
that's the
still
problem when the air
drive
becomes
gasoline
toxic
cars,
to
and
breathe.
it's okay. It's like it's not. I don't think we should vilify people for it, but I think we should just generally lean in the direction of sustainability. And I actually think solar is going to be a majority of Earth's energy generation in the future, and it's certainly trending that way.
Hmm.
And so you get the solar power, combine that with batteries, so
Yeah.
because obviously the sun doesn't shine at night, and then you use that to charge the electric cars, and you have a long-term sustainable solution. And that's what Tesla's trying to move things towards, and I think we've made a lot of progress in that regard. But when you look at our cars,
He sounds
we
like
don't
such a
believe
bitch when trying
that
to defend this
environmentalism,
position.
that caring about the environment should mean that you have to suffer. So we make sure that our cars are beautiful, that they drive well, that they're fast, they're sexy. I mean, they're cool. In fact, literally, I
Ugh.
mean, this sexy joke, Model S, Model 3, Model X, and Y spells
Oh,
out
it's
sexy. It's probably the most
gross.
expensive joke out
Him
there.
saying sexy makes me want to die.
But I don't know, I like
Oha.
cheesy humor,
Bir
so
tane kurabiye gitene kadar 3'e
and
böldüm.
but I'm not, I'm a big fan of, like, let's have an inspiring future, and
Yeah.
let's work towards
Buna
a better future, and we can do so without demonizing
Right.
people.
I'm okay.
You know,
It's very interesting. You use the word global warming, and today they use the word climate change because you have some places that go up, and so they were getting themselves in a little
Dude,
trouble
Trump is
with
not going to
the
agree
word
with you
global
on this. What
warming
the
because not
fuck?
every place is warming. Some places are going the opposite direction. But I'm sort of waiting for you to come up with solar panels on the roofs of your cars and on the trunks of the cars, and it just seems like something that at some point you will come up with. I'm sure you'll be the first, but it would seem that a solar panel on the roofs, on flat surfaces, on certain surfaces might be good,
yeah,
at least in certain areas of the country where you have the world
sure,
where you have the sun. But I would think, and I have no idea because that's not my world, but I would think that this would be something that would be interesting. But the one thing that I don't understand is that people talk about global warming or they talk about climate change, but they never talk about nuclear warming. And to me,
What?
sure,
that's an immediate problem because you have,
What?
as I said, 5 countries where you have major nuclear, and probably some others are getting there, and that's very dangerous. That's where you need a strong American president because you don't want to have this proliferation. But you have 5 countries and getting more. China is much less than us right now, but they're going to catch us sooner than people think. They're way lower. Russia and us are number one, and I mean, we're sort of tied. And China is far behind, but they're developing at a level that you're not surprised to hear very fast. They'll end up catching up, maybe even
yeah,
surpassing. But to me, the biggest
yeah,
problem is not climate change. It's not, and everything's a problem,
The
but it's
biggest
degrees.
problem is not
To me,
climate
the big
change. It's
problem is the
nukes.
nuclear power. The power of nuclear is so great.
Wait,
And when I talk
yeah.
about
Nuclear power is underrated. It's
I'll
awesome.
prevent World War
wait, is he
Yeah,
III,
saying like
I
is he
will.
saying
But
nukes
the
as in
truth
like
is that
weapons or nuclear
you have
power
to because
plants?
this is no longer army tanks going back and forth and shooting at each other. This is
yeah,
a level of
Like, I feel
destruction
like
and
he's
power
playing fast and
that
loose
nobody's
between
ever seen
nuclear
before.
power and like nuclear power plants and then weapons.
There's the bad side of
I
nuclear,
think he
which is
means
nuclear
weapons,
war, very bad
but then
side. But
he like
there's
angles it in a
also, I
way
think,
where, like, does he
nuclear
think power plants
electricity
also have
generation is
Absolutely.
nuclear weapons
You're
in
underrated.
them
right.
or something?
And it's actually, people have this fear of
Like, it
nuclear
doesn't make sense.
nuclear electricity generation, but it's actually one of the safest forms of electricity generation. It's just a huge misunderstanding. Um, and if you look at the injuries and deaths, caused by, say, I mean, I'm not going to try to pick on coal mining, but just any kind of mining
Right.
operation, and there's a certain number of injuries and deaths per year. And you compare that to nuclear. Nuclear is actually way better. So it's underrated as an electricity source, and I think it's something that's worth reconsidering. But there's so much regulation that people can't get it done.
Yeah.
So that
Maybe
We
they'll
should
have to
we should
change some of
deregulate nuclear power plants.
There are some areas like
yeah, it's a rough
when
name.
you see what happened in
Good bad
right.
branding. The
We'll have to
branding's rough.
rebrand it. We'll have to give it a good name. We'll name it after
We
you or
should
something.
definitely
You know,
deregulate
no, it has
nuclear power. That's
it
the
has a
one thing we
branding
should
problem. You know, when
definitely
you see what
do.
happened,
It does have a branding problem.
when you see what happened in Japan, where they say you won't be able to go on the land for about 3,000 years. Did you ever see that? And in Russia, where they had the problem, where they, there's a lot of bad things happened,
Wait,
and they have a problem. And they say that in 2,000 years, people will start to occupy the land again. You realize it's pretty bad,
No, that's not true.
but you're
Well, no,
right
no,
about it. It's amazing.
it's actually not that bad. So like after Fukushima happened in Japan, like people were asking me in California, are we worried about like a nuclear cloud coming from Japan? I'm like, no, that's crazy. It's actually it's not even dangerous in Fukushima. I actually flew there and ate locally grown vegetables on TV to prove it. Um, and I donated
Trump thinks
a
he's
solar
insane for
water
this, by
treatment,
the way.
a solar
He's
power
right.
system
He's
for a
not
water treatment
wrong.
plant.
But I don't
And
think Trump
But you haven't been
understands
feeling
that.
so well lately, and I'm worried about it.
No, but I mean,
I'm
it's just
only
There's
kidding.
it's
I'm
no
fine,
way you
It's
can
it's
explain
like
to Trump that what Elon Musk did right there is
Hiroshima
normal.
and Nagasaki were bombed, but now they're like full cities again. So
Right.
it's
Well, that's
really
great.
not
That's
something that
That's
um,
great.
so it's not as
There
scary as
is
people think.
no
Basically,
way Trump believes anything Elon is
let's see. I
saying.
mean,
Elon is
I
not
mean, are there some
wrong.
other topics we
Elon is
should touch
right.
on? Like
But there's
lawfare. I think
0% chance
Well,
Trump
we
believes
need to
him.
be concerned
Trump
about.
probably
What
is
they've
looking at him
done
like,
to
you
this
got
country.
3 fucking
Obviously,
eyes
Yeah.
right now.
yeah.
Well, we just won the big
I mean,
case in Florida. This was a Biden administration did something that's never been done in this country, and that's go after their political opponent, me, with this nonsense and just nonsense. And the big case in Florida we won, but they always pick a judge and a jury, and they use the local DAs, they use the local attorney
Yeah.
generals
He's like, let's move
like
on from this
Fani,
weird
Fani,
shit about you eating
spelled
radiated plants,
Fani,
loser.
Fani, and it's
yeah,
all a big hoax, and it's all run from there. Like in Manhattan, the one of the top people from the Justice Department went in, ran Manhattan, ran the state. The Letitia James deal was run by a person from the Department of Justice, Biden. They've never done this before,
sure,
and they set up a very bad precedent. It's called lawfare, warfare.
yeah,
It's a terrible thing, and never happened in our country. It does happen in banana republics and third world countries, but it's never
yeah,
happened. And the incredible thing is it actually drove my numbers up because people see, fortunately I have a platform like you, or, in all fairness, like a conversation like this, where I can talk about it and people understand. I mean, you fight for election integrity and you end up getting indicted because you're fighting for election integrity. And when the day comes that you can't fight for election integrity, you don't have a country anymore. So what happens? What
yeah.
happens is they went after their political opponent, me. Now Biden's, close to vegetable stage, in my opinion. Okay, I looked at him today on the beach, and I said, why would anybody allow him? The guy could barely walk. Why would anybody allow him? Does
Yeah.
he have a political advisor that thinks this looks good? He thinks this looks good because it looks so bad, and it's ridiculous. I mean, and he's been doing
Right,
that
right.
for a long time. He can't lift the chair. The chair weighs about 3 ounces. It's meant for children and old people to lift, and he can't
Yeah.
lift it. The whole thing is
Well,
crazy.
he's clearly not, I mean, he's clearly like we just don't have a president right
You
now.
don't
That's
have a
just obviously the
president, and
case.
she's going to be worse than him
Um,
because she is a San Francisco liberal who destroyed San Francisco, and
So
then as
is
Attorney General, she
so is
destroyed
Elon.
California. you talk about location, and we're talking about the sun and the water and all. There's nothing better than California. She has destroyed that. She was the original DA. She was the original in San Francisco. She was the original Attorney General in California. What she has done to California is, well, you know better than I do. You just left California for a lot of those reasons. And what she's done with crime, with cashless bail, where you kill somebody. I mean, we have states there you kill somebody and they let you out right away. I mean,
Another
you
fun
don't have to
fact,
even put up- and then they
Donald
never
Trump
find the people
donated to
that
Kamala
are
Harris's
gonna get them,
campaign
and then they let 'em out
twice.
again. Our
Yeah.
country is becoming a very dangerous place.
Twice.
And she is a radical
I
left
believe a total
San
of
Francisco liberal.
$13,000.
And now she's trying to protect. Now she's looking like she wants to be more Trump than Trump, if that's possible. I don't think it's possible, but she wants to be more Trump than
Well,
Trump.
yeah.
I want a wall. I
I
want,
think that's
you know, she
yeah.
wants
Not
to
in
release all the
2019,
Yeah.
no.
prisoners that are in detention, and some of these guys are really bad.
Right.
That just came
Yeah, I
out
just saw
today.
that.
She
Yeah.
doesn't want to build the wall, even though the walls work. Walls and wheels. You know, in your business, everything you do is obsolete. Almost, well, not the tunnels, but everything is obsolete. Even your rocket ships, they're like a month later, they're obsolete. You find a better way to. The only thing that's not obsolete is a
For her
wall and a
attorney
wheel.
general reelection.
And the wall, you know, I built hundreds of miles of wall, and that's why we had such good numbers. I was going to add 200
Yeah.
miles. We bought it. We could have flipped it up in 3 weeks, and they sold it for 5 cents on the dollar. That meant, I said, wow, that means that they actually do want to have open borders. She wants to have open borders, and now she's going like she's tough on the border. It's such a lie.
Yeah. This is simply not
Yeah,
true. This is simply
no,
not
and
true.
everybody
Yeah,
knows
it's
it's
simply
not
not
true.
true.
It's a disgrace that she can
Yeah.
say it.
No, I mean, obviously, what's happening sort of overnight is they're rewriting history and making Kamala sound like a moderate when in fact she is far left, like far
Worse
left.
than Bernie
Um,
Sanders. She is considered
yeah,
more liberal by
Yeah,
far
everybody hates
than
Bernie Sanders. Keep comparing
She's a
keep
radical
comparing
left
Kamala Harris to
lunatic.
Bernie
And
Sanders.
if she's going to be our
An
president,
unpopular guy.
very quickly, you're not going to have a country
Like in
anymore.
his own
And she'll go
base.
back
In
to
his
all
own
those
base,
things
an
that she
unpopular
believes in.
guy.
She believes in defunding the police. She believes in no fracking, zero. You don't. Now all of a sudden she's
yeah.
saying, no, I will. I really want to see fracking. If they got in, the day she got in, she'll end fracking. And by the way, if people didn't think that, the lunatics that really believe in that, they won't vote
Kamala
for it.
Harris wants 8-minute
the
ads at the top of the
Palestinians
hour
and
instead
Israel.
of the 3.
She is so
She's a radical. She doesn't want you to
anti-Israel, and she's bad
subscribe
both.
for
Biden actually did
$6
something
or
that
for
was
free with a Twitch
impossible.
Prime at the
Both
top of the
sides
hour.
hate him. You know, both sides.
Folks,
That was a hard
Yeah.
thing to do. Unification.
subscribe for $6 or for free with a Twitch
Yeah,
Prime.
I mean, Netanyahu came to
Or you
give
can get
a
gifted a
talk
sub.
to
VT Prof links. Thank
a
you for the
joint
10 gifted
Senate and
subs.
House sitting, and I was there, and Kamala stood him up. What does that say?
I think it's highly
That's
disrespectful.
Hi.
And I say, if you're a Jewish
Hi.
person or if you believe in Israel, if you're a person that, is a very pro-Israel, if you vote for her, it's worse than Biden. And Biden was bad. But if you vote for her, you ought to have your
Biden was
head
bad.
examined. And you see tonight, I mean, as we're doing this, I'm seeing reports coming that they expect an attack tonight or tomorrow from hundreds and maybe thousands of rockets. You know, their Iron Dome, as they call it, as we all call it, but their shield that they build, that can be swamped. We'll use the term that's
yeah,
appropriate, swamped. But they
yeah.
swamp it by shooting enough missiles. You know this better than anybody. By shooting enough missiles,
Sure.
they can't defend themselves. They just obliterate the whole
Yeah.
place. And that's what some people think they're looking to do. And we have no leadership. There's no respect for the United States of America with these people.
No
And I'm
respect.
telling you,
Yeah.
she'll be worse than him because she's a believer
Yeah, no,
in
I
being
think you're right.
radical left, and he wasn't.
I think you're right. I mean, you really.
I think he meant
it's important
swarming the Iron
for the
Dome,
public
not
that maybe listening
swamping,
to this
but
to look at Kamala's track record, before the last month, and say, is that a track record you agree with? And I think if you're an independent moderate, you definitely would not agree with it, because it is her behavior has been far left, and we're seeing just an overnight propaganda attempt to rewrite history and make it sound like Kamala's moderate when she in fact is not moderate.
Well, her
So I
her
think that
running mate approved, signed into legislation, tampons
Oh,
in boys'
oh,
bathrooms. Okay.
Andy,
Now,
Yeah,
that's
go
all
ahead.
I
that's
have
weird.
to hear. Tampons in
That's
boys'
weird.
bathrooms. And that means she
Yeah,
believes in that too. I mean,
yeah, it's not. That's
she
not
picked
okay.
this guy because he was the closest to her. A lot of people thought she'd pick sort of the opposite, but she picked an anti-Israel radical left person. But she is far worse, they say, than Bernie Sanders. If we have her as a president, if we have a Democrat at this moment as the president, I don't think our country can survive.
I think it's a massive. I think we're in massive trouble, frankly, with the Kamala administration, and that's my honest opinion. Um, and uh, and I think really it's essential that you win for the good of the country for this election. And I mean that's I'm just stating my opinion. Now you may have seen this, but I got a letter from the EU Commission, like saying, to not have disinformation on the during this discussion that we're having, and there's a lot of attempts to do censorship and to force censorship even on Americans from other countries, and um, what do you think about that?
Well, I know the European Union very well. They take great advantage of the United States in trade, as you know.
He knows it
We,
very
through a
well.
different forum, NATO, we protect them. And yet, if you build a car in the United States, you can't sell it in Europe. You just can't sell it. It's impossible. The same thing with our farmers. Our farmers find it very difficult to do business. You know, we have a deficit with them of $250 billion, which people don't know. It sounds so nice, the European Union, but let me tell you, they're not as tough as China, but they're bad. And I let them know it. And that's probably why they notified you. No, they don't treat our country well. We defend them, you know, with Ukraine. So we're in for 250 billion, and they're in for about 71 billion, and they have the same size. It's if you add up the European nations that in terms of an economy, it's about the same size. Wouldn't you say as us? And they're in,
Yeah,
and they're in much greater risk. They're
Bro,
right there. We
what
have
is
an
an
ocean
Italian
separating us
supposed
from,
to do in those
in this case,
fucking
the enemy
crowded
would be
city
Russia.
streets
Used to be
with
for
a
the
goddamn
Soviet Union,
American
but
tank?
let's assume they're close enough. And what
Like,
happens is
all right, how are you gonna get mad at
they're
that?
in for 70 something million. I think even less than that,
Like, their roads
billion.
are not even
And we're
fucking
in
equipped.
for about
Motherfuckers are
250
driving
billion,
on
and it could
roads
be a
built
lot
in
higher
like
than
the
that.
fourth
And I
century.
say, why aren't you going to equalize? Why aren't they paying what we're paying? And they're in much more, it's much more important for them because of the fact that, they're right near there. I mean, they're all sort of in that location. We're not. But
yeah,
they should, and I did it with NATO. There were only 7 countries that were paid up in NATO out of 28 at the time. And
yeah,
the United States was subsidizing NATO, tremendously subsidizing NATO. And I said, I went
yeah,
in and I said, you
yeah,
got to pay up. If you don't pay up, we're not going to defend you any longer. I took a lot of heat, but you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in, and
yeah. I think a lot of the public isn't aware of the fact that the United States pays a disproportionate share of the NATO expenses.
and then we get
Even though
taken
like
advantage of on trade. So think
yeah,
about it.
well,
I
I mean
love
the
that
point
they
of NATO is
called
defending Europe,
the
and
EU's calls for no disinformation
it's
being
like
spread in this
then
interview
okay, why
censorship.
why is the United States paying disproportionately more to defend Europe than Europe? That doesn't make sense. That's unfair, and that isn't appropriate.
Elon, you're a defense contractor. You
Well,
know
when you
exactly
talk
why.
about
So
cost cutting and savings and everything else, I mean, honestly, look, there's nobody that feels worse about the Ukraine situation than
Like,
I do
why
because
is
I know
America
what's never
paying for
happened.
Starlink
I
to
know
be
Zelensky.
deployed in
He was very
Ukraine?
honorable to me because when they
I
went with the
wonder.
Russia hoax and they said I had a phone call with him, he said it was a perfect phone call. It was a great phone call. He could have grandstanded and said, "Oh, he was very threatening." He said, "No, it was a very nice phone call." I called him up to congratulate him on his win, and you end up getting impeached because these people are
yeah, yeah,
lunatics. I was talking about the difference from the people within and the enemies on the outside. In many cases, the people from within are more dangerous for our country than the Russias and the Chinas. If you have a smart president, you're not going to have a problem with them. You're going to do things.
yeah,
Now, they've taken advantage
yeah,
of us
absolutely.
incredibly, but you're going to do things with the right person.
Yeah, well, I think it's obvious that you're a believer and an advocate of free speech, because during your first term as president, you were attacked relentlessly every day, often very unfairly, with with false attacks.
Donald Trump literally
And
said he would
try to shut
shut
down
down
people who didn't try
newspapers
to
that wrote about him
rebel
critically.
and inhibit their freedom of speech.
He
And I
also
think
did
that's
not.
not.
He
Well, the
also
good thing
greatly
is that
accelerated the
you
Julian
and I
Assange
have, and some people,
proceedings
very
and
few,
tried to prosecute him on
get the word out.
charges.
Although sometimes it's hard because they don't want to
Like, no,
print it. You know,
I don't
like
like Joe Biden. I
we're
hate him. I
having a
said I
great
wouldn't vote for him.
conversation right now.
Julian Assange was
Kamala wouldn't
freed
have this conversation.
under the
She can't 'cause
under the
she's not
Brandon
No.
smart.
regime.
You know, she's not a smart person, by the way. She can't have this conversation. And Biden, we don't even have to talk about it. I mean, he couldn't have this conversation. He would have given up on the first half of a question. He would have walked out. He would have said, "Where am I? Where am I going?" So anyway, but
Yeah,
no, he wouldn't have this.
that's true.
Not a lot of people would have this conversation, but you know, we cover a lot of territory. But the beauty is that you know, we can have a conversation, and
Yes, you can
I'm
actually
able
have a
to get it out
conversation.
without because I get treated unfairly
This
by
is a
the
really
press.
big point. You can actually have a conversation with you,
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
and you can't have a conversation with Biden or Kamala. It's like not it's not possible.
I like
Yes.
that they try to loop
It's
Kamala
so,
Harris and
this is like talking to an
and
empty
Biden
seat.
into the
No.
same
So it's
category.
Well,
Like they're
but think of
both
it.
mentally
We need a
fucking
man
decrepit.
or person who's unbelievably sharp in order to stop all the
Like
nuclear
I
danger
think
and all the
Kamala Harris is
dangers that I'm
capable of
talking
having a
about.
conversation,
And I got
dude.
along with all these. You know, I got along with Kim Jong Un. We had dinner. We had everything, and he really liked me, and I got along with him really well. By the way, he's the absolute boss over there. You know, a lot of people said, "Oh, do you think he really?"
that's for
Let me
sure.
tell you, I saw things that you don't want to know about. He is the boss.
Wait,
But
what?
we had a good relationship, and he doesn't like Biden. He considers him a stupid man. He said he's a stupid man. Well, at least he speaks his mind. But you know, in this country, you're not sort of allowed to say it.
I
I
don't get
guess
it.
you are.
Shouldn't
You should be
Americans
allowed to
like
say it
Yeah.
if it's true.
hate
But we
that? I
need
mean, I
really,
don't, but
we need smart people, and we need people that have an ability to lead. And she doesn't have that ability. Can you imagine? Now you know
Yeah.
Chairman Xi very well. Can you imagine her and him negotiating, or
put some respect
That's
on my
even
silly. It would be
code.
standing
silly.
together? It is, the whole
Yeah.
concept is ridiculous. She is terrible. She's terrible. But she's getting a free ride. I
It
saw a
would,
picture of
yeah,
her
yeah.
on Time magazine today. She looks like the most beautiful actress ever to live. It was a
The
drawing,
chairman.
and
Respect.
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
she looked very much like our great first lady, Melania.
No, no,
She
no.
looked,
Get back to glazing G. Come
didn't
on.
look.
Yeah.
She didn't look like Camilla. That's right. But of course, she's a beautiful woman. So we'll leave it at that, right?
Oh,
Yeah, well, maybe like I think part of what people in America want to, people in America want to feel excited and
oh,
inspired about the future. Want to
weird.
feel like the
It's
future
true.
is
That's
going to be better
weird.
than the
You're
past,
it's a
and that
weird thing, bro.
America's going to do things that are greater than we've done in the past, reach
Right.
new
I gotta say,
heights.
this also
That
further
makes me
proves
proud to be an
that Trump
American
is zesty and also
and excited about the
ace a
future.
romantic.
They want the
And
Like he
American dream
appreciates
back.
the aesthetics
You know,
of
they
Kamala
want the
Harris.
American
I
dream
swear to
back
God,
more important than anything
it's not
else.
even like a horny way
It's
of
like,
saying it.
you don't have that today because the people, they've been just sucked. They see incompetent people running our, you know, the Biden thing is very interesting. People just found him to
Trump,
be
my
incompetent.
bisexual ace, a
And when I
romantic king.
debated him, I was like, is this for real? It was,
Yeah, it was just absurd. But I think there are like some grand projects that we could do. I mean, I think like we could build a base on the moon. We could send American astronauts to Mars. We
right.
could build high speed
Yep.
connections that are more advanced than anything else in the world between our cities, so people have fast transport.
Bro, you
Um,
literally fucked that
it's
up.
possible to solve
If he
traffic
says
with
boring
tunnels.
tunnels,
Right.
I'm gonna
We've
I'm gonna
already
put
made
myself in a
great
boring
progress in
tunnel.
Vegas doing that, and
It was
and
an abject
just do
failure.
things that are exciting and inspiring and make the future feel like it's better than the past.
Well, I saw
And
what you did in Vegas, and I'll tell you, it was amazing.
Other than
I got
raping
to
people,
see,
Trump ain't too
I
bad.
took a big
For
glimpse
the
at it,
record,
and it's incredible.
rape is not about
It's
sexual
incredible.
desire
And you
or
could do
sexual
that all over. You
gratification.
could do that all
It's
over.
about it's about
It's deep.
yeah,
You don't even
enforcing
need
your
much
power
structure,
over someone
assuming
else.
you're in the right area.
no,
It's about
straightforward.
It's
domination.
amazing.
So I think we could do some things that like China's got incredible high speed rail between its cities, but
So
I
my
think it's
point still
actually
stands on
possible
the ace a romantic.
with tunnels if it with deregulation with an ability to actually where it's like legal to actually do the tunnels. Then you could have high speed tunnels that are actually better than anything else in the world high-speed transport between cities.
Bro,
And
literally
that would be
cooked
something
high-speed
that,
rail in
you know,
California
Americans can say,
with the
wow,
with
okay,
the
we've got
fucking
something that's cooler
boring
than
tunnel bullshit.
anyone else in the
Yeah.
world. That's the kind of thing that makes you proud to be an
And
American.
much safer than surface trains, where there is a danger there, with people, with crazy
Yeah,
people. It's much safer, much better. And, it's sad because I've seen some of the greatest trains. I find it fascinating. And I've seen the systems and how they work,
Charge
and
you
the
to the
bullet trains, they call them, I guess. And
yeah,
they go unbelievably fast, unbelievably comfortable, with no problems. And we don't have anything like that in this country, not even close. And
yeah.
it doesn't make sense that we don't. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think also like there's I'm kind of hopping on the excess regulation, but I think something that um like I think people can generally understand is that what happens with laws and regulations is that there's more and more of them every year, and unless there's a process to clean them up, eventually everything becomes
You're right.
illegal, and that actually it slows down the development of new technologies. I mean, if you take the sort of like I think there's room for some reform at the FDA
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
improving the speed with which we approve drugs that could help save lives and improve people's
Yeah.
lives. And
I worked very hard
and
on that.
you know
We got that down
yeah,
to the lowest number ever, and we got therapeutics approved in the FDA that people can't even believe the speed. But
I
I
thought that
took
that was
them
a
on. I don't
failure.
think they like me too much, but I
That
got things approved in the
didn't they shut
FDA
that
at
down?
numbers that they wouldn't believe. And it's a very bureaucratic group. Actually, it's a fine group of people in many cases. I got to know a lot of them, but I was pushing them really hard for Regeneron, for so many different things that were
He's
really
not talking about
pretty
the vaccine
amazing. But
rollout. He's
the
talking about the
FDA
other thing that he
takes too
did,
long.
the right to
It's
try.
12 years to get a product approved. I got it down to 4, and I
yeah.
got some things done very quickly. But it's really something that is going to have to be worked on because it takes too long. Just takes too long.
Yeah, it just takes too long, and it's you end up in the same with the approval, but it's just it takes years instead of something that I think could potentially take
Yeah,
months, and that improves people's lives. And I
yeah,
think but I just wanted to sort of hop on this point that like there has to be an active process for reducing rules and regulations, because otherwise they just keep building up every year,
yep,
and you get like hardening of the arteries, and eventually everything's illegal or takes forever, and then we just we just ossify as a society. Uh, we can't make any
yeah.
progress, and that's it's a really big
Well,
deal.
Elon, just
So
getting back to the FDA for 1 second, I got something done called Right to Try. This is where you can go in, and if you're terminally
I
ill, you
told you,
can
yeah, he's
use
talking
a
about right to
space
try.
age, medicine or whatever it may be. We have the best doctors, the best labs in the world. We really do. And but people would go to other countries because you couldn't use the product, even if they thought it worked, because it's going through the FDA. I got it approved
yeah,
where you can
yeah,
you basically you look, nobody wanted, the doctors didn't want it because of the liability, the country didn't want it, our country, because they didn't want to get sued. These are people terminally ill. The insurance companies didn't want it, and the pharmaceutical companies, nobody wanted it. I got everybody into a room, and we came up with an agreement that you won't get sued. And also, they didn't want it on their record. If somebody's terminally ill and they die after taking a drug, they didn't want that on their record. So we set a separate list. If somebody was, so it wouldn't count as a negative.
yeah,
Okay. And
It's
as you
kind
know,
of
we got
crazy
it
yeah,
done.
that
We have saved Right to Try. They've been trying
Donald
to
Trump
get
is
this
talking about
done
right to
for
try with a guy who has this
58
Neuralink
years, and
shit.
it sounds simple, but it wasn't, because
It sounds
the
fucking
I mean,
insane.
the
But
insurance
Elon
companies,
Musk is a
nobody
real
wanted it, but
supervillain
we
when you
got
think
it
about
done.
it.
sure,
Somebody signed.
Like this
We
motherfucker actually
signed
wants to
a
chip people's brains, and all
document
the
that
right
you're not
wingers
going
that
to
talk
sue
about
the
how Bill
insurance
Gates
companies,
wanted
the
to chip
country. You're
people
not
with
going to sue anybody.
vaccines love
And we
him.
got it done, and we're saving tens of
There's
thousands of
perhaps no
lives.
better
Right to
demonstration
try.
of fucking
Hopefully,
cognitive
you never
dissonance than
need
a
it.
fucking
But
billionaire
if you do,
sociopath
you don't
trying
have to
to
travel
literally
to
chip
Asia.
people's brains,
People, if they
talking
have
to another
money, they go
billionaire
to Asia.
former
They go to
president
Europe.
about how,
If they don't have
yeah,
money, they
we
go
shouldn't
home and
have more
die. That's what
regulation in the
happens. They go
medicine
home
field.
and
yeah.
die.
Well, I mean, and actually, to give Europe some props here, it's like if a drug is approved in Europe, which has a crazy amount of regulations, it should obviously be approved in the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, they get more regulations than we do. So why would a drug be approved in Europe and not in the U.S.? That's crazy.
Well, we did it. We did
Um,
something that really, they've been trying to do it for 50 years, and they
Yeah,
just
why
couldn't
would a
get it
drug
done.
be
And I got it
approved
done. And
in the
it's
EU
really
but
something.
not the
But you're
US?
right.
Think about
Some
it,
people go
Elon.
to Europe because a drug isn't approved here, but it's approved in Europe, and it's a drug that generally
Money,
speaking, would work.
money,
It's pretty crazy.
money.
You're right.
And I think so, as long as people are properly informed of the
Money.
pros and cons, and like these are the risks, this is the risk, and like you make your own decision.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, I think just,
So
in sort of closing up, and by the way, I'm looking at the numbers. You got a lot of people listening. I hope you don't get
yeah,
nervous because you got a lot of people listening to you right now, like 60 million or something. What is that number? It's crazy. It's amazing how you can see that right away. How many?
60
What is the number?
million?
Wow. What is it?
Someone corrected him and
well,
said,
Wow.
I think in
Wow,
terms of people
that's a big,
that
that's bigger than you said. You said 25 and you're much more than double that number, 25 million. I think you're going to be 60 or 70. And I guess over a period of time, hey, I congratulate you.
what?
Do I get paid for this or not?
That's funny. That was
well,
good. That was a good one.
I think actually in terms of the number of people that will hear this conversation over the next few days to
Right.
weeks, it's going to be hundreds
That's
of
what they
millions.
say. Yeah, that's good. Well, look, it's an
Yeah.
honor. Yeah, I just asked this, are you better off now or were you better off when I was president? Nobody's better off now. People, we put out polls on that and nobody's better off now. Inflation has killed it. And they also feel very unsafe. You look at what's going on with a lot of different things. You look at the riots we had at the
Yeah.
colleges over, I mean, it's ridiculous, but
Right.
all of the riots, they just feel unsafe. And now they really feel unsafe because you have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. I call it Biden
Well,
migrant
yeah.
crime. Maybe I'll call it
Well,
Kamala migrant crime. But
I mean, with all these things, I always try to get
What?
to the ground truth by just asking people. And my mom lives in New York, and I was like, Mom, do you know, have any of your friends, been attacked or assaulted? And she said, yeah, three of her friends in three separate
crazy.
incidents were assaulted just in recent months, just walking around the streets of New York.
For being
And
white.
I said, well, what happened to the people that assaulted them? Oh, nothing. They got away. Like, and they just know
They
that
always get away.
nothing's going. And they don't ever, and they don't even bother
The
reporting
migrants,
it because
they're so much
there's not.
better than
They
our
know that there's
homeborn
not.
criminals. They're
People
able
are not
to
gonna get
assault and run
prosecuted.
away.
They just let violent criminals out in New York
The
with
only one that
zero
gets
avail.
prosecuted is Donald
Why are
Trump.
you
They don't get-
laughing?
They prosecute Trump.
This
Yeah,
is
I mean
stupid.
it's just obviously messed up.
Oh, it's terrible.
If violent criminals are being getting
This
off
is the
scot-free,
dumbest. It's like two fucking
meanwhile,
dumb bitches having this
New York
conversation
spending
back and
massive
forth.
resources
The fuck do
prosecuting
you mean, dude?
It's like what's this? And
What am I supposed to do? Take him seriously? The fuck? It's a clown
public
show.
looks at this and says, "What the heck's going on here? This is obviously abuse of the legal system." Um, the legal system is supposed to be protecting the public
right.
from violent criminals, and it should be obviously allowing the public to make their own decision about who should be president, as opposed to some legal case.
Once they start this precedent, because this can go on with the next one. I mean, this is a very bad precedent what they're doing in terms of going after their political opponent, and that's all it is. It's going after their political opponent, and
Yeah.
and then you get a judge who's a strong Democrat, and I'm being nice when I say that. In many cases, crooked as hell. But you get a judge and you go into an area where a Republican gets 3 or 4% of the vote, and you'll have a jury pool
Yeah.
with people that hate Republicans or hate. It could
Sure.
also be the other way though,
Of course.
because
Really
it could
fucked
start
up.
the other way in areas where they hate
Exactly.
Democrats, and you get into a
Yep.
Pandora's box. It's a very dangerous thing for this country, and a very dangerous thing even for the state. New York City is
Yep.
losing. New York
Absolutely.
City and state lose a lot of business over what they did to me, because these people say we don't want that to happen to us. That's no justice system. You have an unfair system of
Yes.
justice, and it's costing New York State a tremendous amount of money. People are leaving and companies are leaving, and they won't come back. So all of that stuff is important, but the economy now is the big thing, and we can turn that economy up so fast, and people are going to be back again. We're going to get rid of
Yeah.
inflation.
I think there's a lot of opportunity.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So
And I just
I
want
think
to congratulate you. You've done an amazing job. You have definitely got a fertile mind. We can talk. You and I can talk about rockets and
it's kind of you to say. Thank you.
tunnels. We can talk about tunnels and rockets and electric cars. So many things. And now you're into the AI, and that's going to be another beauty, I'll say. So it's
Yeah.
an amazing thing you've done, Elon. It's an amazing thing, and I
Well,
congratulate you.
I mean, thank you. And well, I mean, I just say here, here's to an exciting, inspiring future that people can look forward to and be optimistic and excited about what happens next. And that's the kind of future that I think you will bring as president, and that's why I endorse you.
Well, I appreciate that. That endorsement meant a lot to me. Not all endorsements mean that much, to be honest. Your endorsement
Like
meant a
that
lot.
Aiden Ross endorsement. That didn't mean shit.
Make America great again. It's pretty simple, but it really says that we want to make America great again, and we can do it. We can do it now, but if we were going to suffer another 4 years like we've suffered for the last 4 years, I'm not sure the country can ever come back. That's how bad it is. It's so bad. We have to do a lot
I
of
think that's a
things.
very real
Yeah,
risk.
it's a big
That's a
risk.
very real risk.
Yeah.
And it's, I'd just like to note to people listening, like I've not been very political before, and if you look at my record, I've
What?
actually been.
Bro, you're
I'm
a
not
billionaire.
so they try to paint me as like a far right guy, which is absurd because I'm like making electric vehicles and
You are literally a
solar and
Nazi,
baptizing
bro.
the
You
environment.
literally retweet
And,
Nazi memes on a
and
daily
actually,
basis. You follow Nazis on the website. You've turned this website into a
supported
Nazi
Obama. I stood in
shithole.
line for 6 hours to shake Obama's hand when he was running for president, and so it's not like I'm like some sort of dyed in the wool long-term
Oh my God.
Republican. I call myself, uh,
Bro said Henry Ford. I'm just like Henry Ford. I just want to make vehicles. It's so weird that they're calling me a Nazi for the pamphlets that I'm writing and disseminating.
I think a lot of people thought, the Biden administration would be a moderate administration, but it's not. And obviously, we're just going to see an even further left administration with Kamala. That's my honest opinion. I mean, her dad is literally. I mean, she was brought up as an actual. Her dad is a Marxist economist. You can Google it. I mean, it's not a. We're not making this up.
Put some respect on Donald Harris.
That's how she was brought up. So, and we want to have a future that is prosperous. And I think we're just at this critical juncture.
I do love these guys trying to like.
I think this
trying
is a
to
case
still do this narrative where they're like, I'm just a moderate.
America,
Bro, yesterday is like,
gonna
immigrants
catapult
are
in the
actually
road.
fucking
And
responsible for every rape
and I
that's
think
ever happened in England and should be purged violently. Today he's like, I'm just a moderate. Why are people calling me a far-right figurehead?
I'm gonna get attacked.
I love every time one of these fucking dumbass losers unmasks themselves because it's always a I told you so moment.
I haven't been really active.
You are interviewing Donald Trump, dude. You're interviewing Donald Trump. What do you mean you're fucking moderate?
Moderate, if not moderate.
You cannot be fucking moderate and
so
suck
this is
Donald
people out
Trump's
there who are in
cock
the
at the
moderate
same
camp
time.
to
You're like,
say, I think you
I'm a
should support,
moderate.
Donald Trump for president. And I think it's actually a very important junction in the road, and we're in deep trouble if they don't.
You can't endorse
if it goes the
Donald
other
Trump
way.
and be like, I'm
Well,
a
I wanna
moderate. Why
thank
are
you,
people
and,
saying I'm far
I
right?
actually always did think of you as somewhat left. I must say that. So it's
Yeah.
even more of an
Well,
honor to have your endorsement. I know how strong you feel about it. But when you think of her, San Francisco, 15 years ago, I had a great friend, Bob Tish. He said it's the greatest city in America, and now it's almost not livable there. And California likewise. And she was involved in the destruction of San Francisco and the destruction of California. And she will be involved in the destruction of our country if people are so unwise as to elect her. And I hope that doesn't happen. And I hope the elections are going to be run honestly. And we're going to turn
If I had a nickel for every car maker who made a Model T and hates the Jews, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't much, but it's weird it happened twice. Exactly.
Given to us by other countries as they laugh. They
so
laugh
weird.
at us. They think we're stupid.
It's so
to
weird how
accept
that
these people.
happened.
These are radical, stone cold killers
Welcome back,
in many
Henry Ford.
cases, and terrorists. And they're in our country by the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
And we have to take them out.
Yeah, I mean, if I could summarize it, perhaps, I think these are issues that I think most people in America would agree with, which is that we want safe and clean cities, we want secure borders, we want sensible government spending, we want to restore both the perception and reality of respect in the judicial system, just stop the lawfare, and I think that's like, and how are those even right-wing positions? I think those are that's just common sense, and that's I mean, would you agree with that?
100%. I don't understand, the whole They
He
call it
doesn't
progressive.
understand
They
it.
don't like
Why
the
are
word
people
liberal
calling
anymore,
him?
but call
He
it
only said to
liberal or
abolish the
progressive.
Department of
I don't
Education.
understand how somebody
Why are
could
people
say that
saying
it's
he's
okay
crazy?
for them to empty prisons into our country.
Yeah.
And again, I told you, their
Why are
crime
people
rates
saying
all
I'm
over the world
crazy?
are
I'm
going
just
way down.
hallucinating this like
Listen,
massive
next time
plot
what
from
we'll
Latin
do is
American
if
governments.
something happens with this election, which would be a horror
Why
show,
are people saying I'm
we'll
crazy
meet the
for
next
this?
time in Venezuela because it'll be a far safer place to meet than our country. Okay, so we'll go. You and I will go.
Why are
and we'll
people
have a
saying I'm
meeting and dinner
crazy?
in
I'm only
Venezuela
hallucinating
because
that
that's what's happening. Their crime
millions of
rate's coming
Venezuelans
down,
have
and
been
our
dumped
crime
out of
rate's going
Venezuelan
through the
prisons to
roof,
come
and
do
it's so
America
simple.
rapes.
And you haven't seen anything yet
So
because
this is a
these
normal
people have
position.
come into our country and they're just getting acclimated, and they don't know about being politically correct law enforcement or lack of law enforcement. And our police,
He's
I
like,
have to just end
he's
with
like, I
this.
just
We
want
have
to do
great
concentration camps, bro.
police.
It's
We have great law
fine.
enforcement, but they're not
Chill.
allowed to do their job. They have to be able to do their
Yeah.
job without being destroyed.
Well, absolutely, and it's obviously demoralizing if you're a police officer risking your life to to arrest violent criminals who could kill you and do kill you sometimes.
This
And
this
then
makes me
you
blow a
arrest the violent
gasket, bro.
criminal,
The
and
fucking
then
fact that we're just like
DA,
the most pampered babies on the
doesn't
planet
prosecute,
are the
and
American
just let the
police
guy off.
departments,
Well, then, like,
okay?
why
Oh, they
should
can't
a
do their
police
jobs
officer
because we
risk
aren't
their
respecting
life
them enough.
uh,
We already give them
to
multiple billions,
arrest
dude.
a
What the
violent
fuck are
felon?
you
Well, even
talking
worse,
about?
That
Elon,
nothing's going to happen?
even worse, they
We
prosecute
need to double
the police
suck them. We need to
officers.
double suck them. Every time you see a cop,
They
you
go
have to
after
suck
and they
them. You
prosecute
literally
the
have to
police
get down on your
officers.
hands
They
and
take
knees and
away
go,
his
thank you,
pension.
sir.
They
Thank you
take
for
away his
everything you
job.
do.
He loses his family. He loses his house.
Well, I thought it was very telling, like incredibly telling, that when there was that case where sort of a gang of thugs beat up police officers. I think it was in Times
Yep.
Square in New York, and and then nothing happened to those guys. They were let out, zero bail, and I think a bunch of them were given free tickets to
Oh my God,
California.
I can't believe they're still talking
Well,
about
what is
this. Bro,
I
the
mean,
cops
that is
fucking attacked them.
that is a gross
They weren't
indignity
even doing
against the
anything.
United
That
States,
shit was
and
fake outrage.
that's how.
What the fuck
I
are you
mean,
talking
this
about?
is insane. Like, have we lost all pride?
What are they supposed to do?
that-
Arrest them
how
for
can
doing
such a thing
nothing?
be
Like,
allowed to
what the
occur?
I've
fuck?
never seen anything.
My brother
we
is a
see
cop, but
where they
okay.
get
Bring him
shot.
over. I'll
It's a
suck
very
his cock,
dangerous
dude.
profession, but
Bring your
companies
brother
are
over
very
here. I
proud
will
and they won't
suck
be able
his
to do
dick,
their
dude. I'll
job.
suck the
I've
soul out of his
seen them
dick,
shot, I've
okay?
seen a lot of things, but I've never seen where these guys are standing in the middle of a big street, everybody watching them, and they're literally
Bring him over
boxing,
here.
like punching, stand-up fighting a police officer. There were two of them, and you
Yeah,
had about six
yeah,
of
yeah.
these guys, and they're punching the hell out of them. And in their own country, they would be dead if they did that. They'd be shot. They
Yes.
would be shot instantly. And they come from these countries, and it's taking them a while to realize that we don't do that in this country. But in their own
Yeah.
country, if they stood on a street and had a fight with a police officer, they would be shot. There's no political correctness, and it's such a sad,
Yeah. It's
it's
just
such a sad thing to see. And that's the reason you
we
have
yeah
crime,
we
by the way,
yeah
because we don't do anything about
yeah
it.
yeah we
Crime
just
is
cannot have
down.
a situation
Historic
where our
lows.
police officers
That's the reason
beaten
why we
up
have
on camera
crime.
by
Crime is down,
a gang
historic
of illegal
lows,
immigrants,
like
and then nothing happens
unimaginable fucking
to
percentages.
the guys that
Homicide was the
beat
only
up
thing
the
that was
cops.
up,
I mean,
and
and
even
they're let
that is
out.
down by like
This is
40% in Philadelphia.
Well, we're going
unacceptable.
to change it, and we're going to get them out of the country. When I first got involved, they said you couldn't get them back to these countries. You couldn't take them back. In the case of Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, some others, you couldn't get them back. And I said, really? Oh, you can't get them back? Because under Obama, he couldn't get them back. They'd fly them in, and they'd put planes on the runways in these countries so you couldn't land the plane. They'd bring them back. And the generals told me, sir, we can't bring them back. The countries won't accept MS-13 gang members. They won't accept them. And I said, really, how much do we pay these various countries in terms of economic aid, which is also somewhat ridiculous? And the answer was
Guys, this is
$750
fake news,
million.
dude.
I said, good. Tell them they're in
The
default.
FBI is
They're
woke and
delinquent. We're not paying them anymore because they won't accept
Yeah,
it.
it's
And you know what
The
happened? They
FBI
all
crime
called me.
stats are both woke and
We
gay.
would be
Don't you
honored
know?
to take them back, sir. We would be honored. It was
Just
so
like
easy.
when I,
But it's one of
just
those
like when I
things.
use
We got
Department of
about- we
Homeland
took it
Security
so much,
data to talk about
MS-13
fucking
probably the
like
worst gang
immigrant
in the world.
apprehensions or
Most victims
CBP
violence.
data for
We took them
migrant
out of here by the
crimes.
thousands
It's
and got them
fake.
out of here, and their countries
Data
took
is
them
fake.
back.
If
And
you look at the
because
numbers,
they said
you're a
we're not
nerd.
getting any
You're a
more
loser.
economic aid.
You must be a
And once
libtard.
they said that, they
What
were-
matters is
they
vibes and
wouldn't take
fear
them back
and
to
panic.
Obama.
Yeah.
They wouldn't take them back for anybody. And now we have a problem because we have this guy, and they don't take him back anymore with Biden because they don't respect him.
yeah. It's just gotta be done. We just can't have you know, whether they're citizens or not citizens. We can't have, because they won't prosecute citizens either, not just illegals. So if it's you can't have violent, repeat violent offenders that are not that don't get incarcerated.
That's right.
Because they will obviously,
Bro is so horny to be racist. He can't even get his words
continue
out, dude.
to
Oh my God, Elon.
hurt people. And I think where part of this
The
comes from is
immigrant
that there's
crime.
and I do sort of consider myself liberal in some ways. I mean, it's just that you want to have empathy for
Right.
people. Obviously, you want to have empathy for people. I totally agree with that. You want to have empathy, but
you
you also
can't.
have to have empathy for the victims of the criminals. And if you just have empathy for the criminals, it's actually shallow empathy. It's not real. You're not thinking. You're one layer deep.
That's the thing that Americans
empathy.
have
You
too
gotta
much
say, like,
of. Empathy
if
for
you don't
criminals.
incarcerate this person, who are they going to?
What are you
hurt?
saying,
Or
bro?
they might kill someone. They might rape someone. If you don't incarcerate them, you have to have empathy
We
for the
have the highest
victims.
percentage.
And there's
We
a
have the
lack of
highest prisoner
empathy for the
density per
victims of
capita
the
on the
criminals,
planet.
and
Okay.
too much empathy for the criminals.
25%
It
of the
doesn't make
entire
sense.
planet's
That's
incarcerated
right. You want to
is in
have
the United States of
deep
America.
empathy
We only make
for
up
society
4%
as a
of the
whole,
entire planet's
not
population.
shallow empathy for criminals.
Ridiculous.
And we have to give our
We
police officers
imprison
the
so
dignity and the
much.
respect that they deserve. And we have to let them do their job. They can do a great job.
I love the
but we
idea
have
that
to let them
policing
do
is
their job.
shitty
And
in
if
this
we don't
country,
do
not
that,
because they're fucking major
it's gonna
babies
hold us to
that have
There's never
qualified
been a
immunity
society
and
like
never
this
get
where
accountability,
you're allowed
but because
to
we're not
do anything
respecting
you
them
want
enough.
and nothing
It is one of the
happens.
things
And I'm
that
talking about
frustrates me so
violent
much because
crime.
Americans
And it's
also are
gonna get
so
more
stupid and
violent
they
because
love
these
the
are
police,
really
even though they
violent
are
people,
literally
and we're gonna get
so
them
bad
out
at
of
their
our
fucking
country,
jobs.
and we're
I
gonna
want them
get
to do their
back to
jobs.
where-
I want them to
because they
actually
were
do their
sent
jobs.
here by
I want
the
them to solve
president
crimes.
and by
You know
the
what I mean?
various people that
That's
run
what we're
those
fucking
countries,
paying them
and I know
for.
every one
But
of
like
those
this
guys.
argument that
And they're
policing
smart
sucks in this
people,
country
and
now
they're streetwise
because we're
people.
not respecting them
And
enough
really
is
think that
it blows.
they're going to make a strong border. They say they've been great on the border, and they've been the worst in history. They say they're
Yeah,
going to
it's
stop
terrible. Like
crime,
the
and
facts speak for themselves. The
it's so
facts
incredible.
speak for themselves. Like it's gotten to the point where people just don't even bother reporting crime in a lot of
That's
cities
right.
because they know nothing is going to happen. Um, that's what I hear anecdotally from people all the time. So it's just my values. I'm just saying to people out there, like the things I think are important for the future is like we've got to have safe
He's so
cities,
fucking unbearable,
secure
dude. He
borders.
is like,
We've got to have
he's lost
sensible
all of his
spending,
juice. He's lost all of his sauce.
we've got to have
He's just like such a fucking
deregulation,
old,
so we can have
angry
a prosperous
man.
future,
And
and then
now
we
he has a
want to have some
lisp
exciting,
somehow. I don't know what happened
sort of
there.
moonshot projects that people
He's
say
just
they're
fucking
fired up about.
unbearable.
And that's the future I'm looking for. And I'm pro environment.
It's great though, because I feel like everything that Trump touches is so toxic.
I don't think we should vilify
Hopefully
oil
this
and
will
gas
cause a
industry
lot of
because
these like
they're keeping
holdout
civilization
centrist
going,
liberals who
right
think
now.
Elon is fucking
And,
brilliant
but I do think we
to
wanna move,
recognize that he definitely is
at a
not.
reasonable speed towards a sustainable energy economy. Those are my values, and I think, and so I mean that's why I'm supporting you for president.
Well, I
So
appreciate it. We're going to give incentive to companies to come into our country, not to leave our country. We're going to be giving tremendous incentives. We want companies to build here, not to build in other locations. And we want to create jobs. And again, it's about the American dream. You don't
Something
hear
I'm
about the
fairly
American
concerned about is
dream
Elon will
anymore.
100%
You
use
don't
his
even hear the
platform to call the
American
elections a
dream.
fraud when
It's
Trump
sad.
loses
But you
and or
don't hear
rig the
about
election beforehand.
American dream anymore.
Yeah, no, the
If you
fuck,
hear
he
about it,
can't do that.
people, they need that incentive to
Bro,
go out
in
and
order for
and
him to be
do
able
it.
to
And
rig
they're
the fucking
gonna love their
elections
lives. I mean, they're gonna
by
look forward
significant
to getting up
margins,
in the
he would
morning,
need
going
the
to
platform to
going
be able
a
to
job that they
function.
love, not a
He
job
would
that
need to
they
be able to bring like
understand or
actual
not.
liberals and normal people
Any
back
job
onto the
at all where they have
platform.
no money.
Twitter's
Wherever
revenue
they
has
have no
dropped
money, then they end up
84%.
with
Its
violence,
user
corrupt
base has
elections.
dropped
So
significantly since Elon's
we're gonna
takeover.
things. And I
There's
learned a
no
lot of
like,
first. We had a great economy
he's
and all
running
of
it into
that.
the fucking
We
ground.
rebuilt the military. We did so much, but I also learned the best people. I learned the good people, the smart people, the dumb people, the people that can do things. The people, you learn. When I first came in, I tell people I was in Washington, D.C. only 17 times, according to the fake news media. I was in 17 times. I never
There's
stayed
200 million
over.
sycophants and
And you don't know
effectively
people.
infinite
You
source of
rely
funds.
on other
Nah.
people to give you names, and then you realize the people you relied on weren't so good. Now, we had great people, but we also had some where I wouldn't have, used them had I known. Now I
yeah,
know everybody. And I think we're going to really turn things around fast. We have no choice. Otherwise
Everything
we're not
Trump
gonna
says
have a
Biden did to
country.
America,
And
Elon has actually
I
done
really
to Twitter.
appreciate this.
It's
been,
also what
to me,
Trump
it's been a
wants
lot
to
of
do
fun
to
meeting with
America.
you. You're
This is why I
an
always
amazing
use
guy.
the
You've done an
example, like what
incredible
Elon
job
Musk has
and a
done to
great
Twitter
inspiration
is
to
a
people.
perfect demonstration
Great
of what
inspiration.
right-wingers do in
I
general.
hope you keep going
Like,
and just
Twitter
continue to do
sucked.
well.
It
And
was run by a
we're gonna have
liberal,
a big
but at
election
least it
coming up,
worked. You know what I mean?
I
It
think
sucked. There was a lot of
November 5th will
issues,
be the
but at least
most
it fucking
important
worked.
day
It wasn't like a
in the
Nazi
history of our
infested
country. I think that
shithole
election
where
will
like
be the most
pedophiles were
important
posting
election,
CSAM
and I
and
think
then
it'll
like
end up
the
being maybe the
fucking
most
billionaire
important day in
baby
the history
who
of
was
our
a
country,
rabid sociopathic
because
Nazi
if we
wasn't
don't win,
personally
I just
restoring
feel
the
so
accounts of
sorry
like
for
dudes who
everybody.
were distributing CSAM, child
No,
sexual
I think
abuse
we're at
material.
a full
Like,
node of destiny of
that's what he did.
civilization.
That's what Elon Musk did.
And
So
I
that's the
think
difference.
we
Like,
need to take
yeah, Democrats suck.
the right path. And
Ultimately, there's like
I
a
think,
basic level of
you're
competency
doing
that
the
they
right path.
demonstrate.
So
They keep the
that's what
fucking
it's about.
federal
Thank you
agencies
very much,
going.
Elon. It's a great
Republicans come
honor,
in and they
we'll-
just
we'll do it again
destroy everything.
sometime, and it's been really fun, and I hope you got a lot of viewers. I hear you got a lot.
let us hear them talk, please,
I
bro.
hope
They're
you
Sure.
got
they're
a-
saying
Yeah,
goodbye to each other like
I know you got a
lovers
lot of them. So
who can't
I
hang up the
appreciate it.
fucking
I'll
phone
see you
first
soon.
for the past 25 minutes.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Elon. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye. Bye bye. I'm still in the space. Let's see if anything else happens. They kept doing, no, you hang up. No, you hang up. No, you hang up. No, you hang up. Thank you, Elon. One man's weakness, another man's strength. That the person who finally says fuck it, no borders is absolutely strongest because of the inevitable backlash. Yeah. No mention of JD Vance, by the way. That was crazy. I could hear Trump's fat ass clapping on the phone. Dude, I think there's something very funny about the cognitive dissonance that right-wingers display on a regular basis where they talk about like fucking elites, right? Bi-coastal elites, but then they love Donald Trump. They think he's like the greatest gift of all time to the average everyday working man. They also literally keep talking about like big pharma and how devastating that is and how fucking scary like big billionaire elites, society elites are. But then they glaze Elon Musk. Elon Musk is literally trying to put a chip in your fucking brain, dude. And honestly, you kind of deserve it. Like, you deserve to live in the Elon Musk dystopia where your brain is goddamn chipped by him. It's so crazy to me. It's so crazy to me that this fucking dude is like such a villain, if not for his like glaringly obvious incompetence, is not seen by the broader public of his sycophants as like an actual villain. Yeah, fewer people are using Elon Musk's app as the platform struggles to attract and keep users. It's now at 27 million daily active users, 8% of the population. Twitter at its peak, as I used to always say, was at 20%. In February, or it's down 18% from a year earlier. Twitter's daily active users have gone down dramatically. Look at this. Minus 23%. Back in the day, Twitter's like at its peak, Twitter had like around 20% of the American population. Okay? Now it's at 8%. And it's actually going down more and more. So I'm telling you, like he fucking, oh my God, what happened? Oh my God, everyone's going to talk about the fucking, oh my God, everyone's going to talk about his list. Oh my God, he's going to hate this shit. Why is he slurring? What? Chat, I'm a med student focusing on neurology. My money is on drunk over stroke. No, he doesn't drink. Med student focusing on neurology. Trump famously does not drink. He does not. Yeah, my mom just chimed in and said his brother was an alcoholic. Trump does not drink at all. There are photos of him like holding up an alcoholic beverage and it's all fake. He literally does not drink. He does do Sudafed though. So the likelihood of why he sounds like that is probably his dentures maybe in his mouth, but I don't think he even has dentures. So the funniest part about this is that like everyone is going to be talking about the fucking lisp and everyone's going to make fun of him for the lisp. And that is exactly the type of shit he hates because it's not calling him powerful and scary. It's not calling him racist. It's calling him a fucking loser. Okay? And I know this man hates being made fun of. Has anyone found Joe Rogan? He probably nutted too hard while watching this interview and died.